Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the City of Paterson Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting, a special meeting of Monday, September 27, 2021. Can everybody please stand and salute the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The notice requirement of the Open Public Meetings Law has been satisfied with respect to this special meeting, specifying the time, date, and location included in the annual notice adopted at the reorganization meeting of the board, filed with the clerk of the City of Paterson, posted in City Hall, and mailed to at least 2 newspapers in accordance with the provisions of the law. Commissioners, I'm going to take roll. Commissioner Burrell.
Present.
Commissioner Dumas. Commissioner Dumas. Absent. Commissioner Furman.
Present.
Commissioner Minato. Commissioner Torres Arenas.
Present.
Commissioner Roheen.
Present.
Commissioner Vega.
Present.
Commissioner Watkins.
Present.
And Chairman Thaxton. And call the agenda. The matter scheduled for this evening, September 27, 2021, is 22 Mill Street, Gensite PC, Block 4601, Lot 6. Is the applicant present?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, I am Michael Rubin, 1330 Hamburg Turnpike, Wayne Township, New Jersey, and I am the attorney for the applicant in this use variance matter. The first witness that I wanted to present, so to give you a flavor of what the use is all about, and to give you and those people who might be interested, what we're proposing would be the principle of Densike, which is proposed to be located at 22 Mill Street. So I would like to present Dr. Henry Odolami as a first witness in this application.
Yes. Hold on 1 minute, Counsel. I just want to wait. We have people coming in, and I just want to make sure, ladies and gentlemen, I see we have numerous people in the audience. Are you here for 22 Mill Street? Yes. Okay. You'll have an opportunity at the conclusion of each witness's testimony to ask questions. We're going to have general comments at the end, but we're going to save that until the end. But you will have an opportunity to ask questions. Can I help you, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Lorago, with all due respect, my name is David Sue, 34 Van Houten Street. I'm here in my own capacity. Paterson Friends of Great Falls Incorporated, nonprofit I work on, and the residents of the Essex and Kingsville Association. Sir, this matter needs to be dismissed immediately. This board has no jurisdiction to grant variances for the redevelopment plan as stipulated in the redevelopment plan. I'll provide Mr. Rubin a copy.
Mr. Chairman, this is totally inappropriate. We have our application, which has been duly advertised and filed, and we have a right to be heard. If Mr. Sue has some kind of legal argument, well, that's for this board to hear at some point, and if he doesn't like what the board says, that's what the courthouse is for. So I must ask that the board allow the application to move forward because we have an absolute right to be heard according to the New Jersey Municipal Land Use Law. So having Mr. Sue come and talk about what he thinks is the appropriate is totally out of turn. He has to wait until the appropriate time to make his comments, and then the board will make their decision. And if the board feels that this is not appropriate, well, Mr. Sue has his alternatives, as he well knows. So I would ask that you allow the applicant to move forward according to the municipal land use law, because that is our prerogative and our right.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I'm the one that was interrupted by Mr. Rubin. I had the floor. I presented you with a copy of page 20 from the Paterson Municipal Redevelopment Plan, and it says, sir, any deviation that would result in a D variance pursuant to NJSA 40:55B-7B shall be addressed as an amendment to the plan. Neither the planning board nor the board of adjustment shall have the authority to allow deviation that would result in a D variance. The planning board shall have the power to grant relief from other bulk and dimensional requirements of this plan to the same extent as the board may grant relief from bulk and dimensional requirements in pursuant to NJSA 40:55B-7C. This board has no jurisdiction to hear this application. This use is not permitted in this redevelopment area. The only way that the applicant can find success in moving forward is that if the redevelopment plan itself is changed through a process stipulated in law, passing through the master plan, passing through the planning board, and then the city council, and then back to the planning board again. Sir, with all due respect, I ask that this matter be dismissed, do not waste anybody else's time. You have no jurisdiction to go forward. It's over. It's over now.
The only one who's wasting time is Mr. Sue, who has done this in other applications.
Hold on a minute, counsel, just hold on a minute. Mr. Sue, is there anything else with regard to your objection you want to place on the record?
I have other concerns, but...
No, not about concerns. I'm talking about with regard to this issue, about the jurisdiction.
You know, I can produce a copy of the redevelopment plan map to show that this property is identified within the plan, and I have copies of the section of the plan that lists the permitted uses in the plan area, and in the absence of this being a permitted use within the area, this board has no jurisdiction.
And Mr. Sue, not that it's critical if you didn't do it, just so the record's clear, did you raise this objection to the planning department prior to this evening, when it was being scheduled?
Actually, I only noticed this aspect of the local law or ordinance or code this evening. Really just about a half an hour before I got here. I have voluminous documents that I prepared in apprehension of this meeting so that I would be able to make a challenge to the variance on its merits.
And you're going to have that opportunity. But with regard to the application, it's been duly noticed. It's gone through the course, through the planning office to get scheduled this evening. If it's in fact approved, which I have no idea whether it will be or won't, your objection is placed on the record. That would be another issue that could be raised later. This is put in front of me. Again, it's here through the appropriate channels. We're going to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. LaRocco. If I could present the first witness, Mr. Sue, why don't you sit down? You've done this in so many applications and caused so many problems. Come on, let's be a gentleman. Yes, I am going to call Dr. Henry Nolamami if he could be sworn in. Doctor, if you could be sworn, please, by counsel.
Yes, I do. Dr. Henry Odulami. Odulami. Lami. Odulami.
They can't hear them in the YouTube.
Doctor, can you give the board some indication of your background, what you've been
Excuse me, they can't hear you upstairs. You need to talk into the mic. Thank you.
Sorry. Usually I'm heard. Doctor, could you please give the board the benefit of your background, your professional background?
Yes. As I said, my name is Dr. Henry Odulami. I'm the CEO and owner of GenPsych PC. GenPsych PC is a mental health company that was founded by me in 2006. I graduated from medicine at the University of Ibadan in Nigeria in 1989, and I finished my residency in 1997 at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in psychiatry. I've been a practicing psychiatrist since then. I was board certified in 1998, and the company that I own, GenPsych PC, has grown from a little office to what we have now. And so we'll give you a background of what we're trying to do as we put it.
Please, Dr. Henry, can you please advise the board of the parameters of this application? What is GenPsych proposing for this site?
Okay, so I'll give you a background of GenPsych PC so you know who we are. So we're a behavioral health company in New Jersey. We're probably the largest mental health company in New Jersey right now. We have ongoing 7 sites that are located throughout New Jersey. So the first site we had was in Bridgewater, New Jersey, which was founded in 2008. We have another site in Brick, New Jersey, Princeton, New Jersey now, Livingston, New Jersey, one in Jersey City, one in Flemington, New Jersey, one in Wayne. We also have 2 that we're looking to bring on by the end of this year, one in Marlborough, New Jersey, and the other in Rochelle Park, New Jersey. We've been through this before. We have a residential substance abuse facility that in California, New Jersey, it's 14 beds. We're scheduled to finish it by the end of this year. So we have a lot of these facilities. We have about 400 employees now. We're not only based in New Jersey, we're also based in Florida. We've got a facility in Palm Beach, Florida, and also one coming up in Maryland. What we're looking to do here is to build a residential substance abuse facility in Paterson, New Jersey. I chose Paterson, New Jersey for 2 reasons. Mainly because, one, I met Jeff and he had a building that was suitable for what we want to do. At the same time, the other reason why I chose Paterson, New Jersey is because we're trying to diversify we're trying to justify our facility, so we're trying to put it into different areas of New Jersey. So, for example, we've just gone into, previously we were in smaller, what I'll call middle-class neighborhoods, but we have to serve the whole state. So we've just gone into Jersey City now. We have a facility in Jersey City, and we're also looking to do one in Paterson, New Jersey. We serve a whole spectrum of clients. Most of our clientele, I'll say, are middle class. We have what we call 2 levels of care, as we call it in psychiatry. We have an outpatient, which is the one in which you come in once a month, once every 2 months. You talk to your therapist, you meet with your psychiatrist, and you get medication for that. We also have what we call like a daycare is the way I'll describe it. That's the best way I'll describe it. Daycare is when you come a couple of days a week and you kind of like you go for group therapy, you meet your therapist, and you're there for about 6 to 8 weeks. So that's the other thing we do. We're mainly a mental health company. I want to put this to you. We're mainly a mental health company. We're not really a substance abuse facility. We're dual diagnosis. That means that we do both. But about 95% of our clientele have mental health issues. About another 5% have eating disorders. Substance abuse we do because we also have, as you know, there's comorbidity. So we also have our clients that have substance abuse issue, and we also treat that. But we don't primarily do substance abuse like a lot of all the other facilities you would meet. We really do mainly mental health. We treat all age groups. We go from about 8 years old to about an average of 65. As we said, we're mainly an insurance-based company. We've got a couple of clientele here and there that we have, especially the kids that have Medicaid that we also have treated for a long time. But that's really the main crux of our our treatment spectrum. The type of facilities that we have, as you guys may notice, and I've got some papers if you guys want to, kind of some literature, usually what I would say well-designed middle-of-the-road facilities. They vary in square foot. So we've got some from 5,000, and we've got some to 30,000 square foot facility. What we don't have is that we don't have substance abuse facilities in which you have 200, 250 people. I've heard that. What we're looking to do in Paterson at 22 Mill Street is to do what I call a residential substance abuse facility. What does that mean? That means that, as I said, most of our clients are really mental health, right? Some of them do have ongoing substance abuse issues, and we put them inpatient to kind of like treat both of them together. What we're proposing is there are 3 floors on 22 Mill Street. We're proposing to do 2 floors with 19 bedrooms. So one floor, the first floor with 9 bedrooms, mainly females. The second floor with 10 bedrooms, mainly males. Each of our bedrooms are 2. We have 2 people in each bedroom. Each has its own bathroom. We also then have the treatment on the 3rd floor with the dining area and the lounge area. Typically, our facilities are locked. Although in the state of New Jersey, we're not a psychiatric facility. So we obviously can't detain people against their will. They've got to be committed for that. But what I mean by locked is that in a place like 22 Mill Street, we pretty much have everybody indoors all the time, and the door is locked. Before they come in, they have to sign in with us. Most of our clients come from hospitals. So most of them have just overdosed. 80-90% of our clients, because we're mainly mental health, have just overdosed. Because of the overlying mental health issues that they have, they send them to us. So most of them will come from the emergency rooms. A couple of them will come from their doctor's office, but we don't do walk-ins. That means that you've got to be referred. We bring you here in our ambulances just because obviously fragility of their situation. And once they come in, before they come in, they've got to sign with us that they really are not able to, if they want to sign themselves out, we really are not able to discharge them to the streets because we have a responsibility, because we're mainly mental health. If we discharge somebody to the street and something happens to them, then we're really very liable. Our insurances are very careful about that. We're mainly mental health, and so we've got to be careful about what we do with that, when we discharge people. So when they sign that, when they come in, they sign that. If they want to go against medical advice, we will try and talk them out of it. But as I said, we can't force them. We will transport them either to the hospital, either to another level of care that we found, another facility, or the emergency room, or the hospital where we pick them up from, and put them with the state counselors over there to find them disposition. We don't discharge our clients to the streets, as I said. Our insurances don't let us do that. Now, if somebody becomes agitated and says, look, I really need to go now, and they become agitated, we'll tell them, we'll call the police. We've never had to do that, I must say. We've really never had to do that in all our time because we have a whole slew of counselors that would do that. So the facility we're proposing in Paterson, as I said, is going to be well built. It's not going to be a facility it would be as well built as any of the fine hospitals that you see. We put a lot of work into developing here, and Jeff over here is a builder that is committed to doing that. Meals are not going to be prepared on-site. Meals will be prepared off-site and will be brought on-site. We'll have a kitchen, but just almost like a warming kitchen. We have a whole slew of staff with them. So the staffing ratios we use are pretty high. So for example, we use a ratio of about one patient, we have about 7-8 nurses. So with a capacity of about 38, at all times there, we're looking at 5 nurses, probably about 3 RNs and 2 LPNs round the clock. So they'll be with them for 24 hours. We also would have what we call 2 techs. with them at all times. During the day, we have the therapist, we have a psychiatrist with them, we have the nurse practitioners with them. So there's about a staff about 20 with them. So the ratio is about 1 to 2. It's not about 1 to 30 that you might find in other places. About 1 to 2 ratio that you would find in that. We also, like I said, the doors are also, obviously we have cameras all over the place, both indoors and outdoors. We also have security. So at all times we're going to have, or we're proposing to have 2 full-time security that stand on the first floor by the door. They would man the door. We will have them obviously with walkie-talkie doing patrols. So what they normally do with one is there, and then the other goes around and patrols every 30 minutes, just to make sure that we don't have, just to make sure that everything is clear. All the windows are going to be alarmed, so if anybody tries to go through any of the windows, we'll know beforehand. So the security is taken care of. Obviously, there's, when they come in, they sign a non-smoking clause. That's one of the things we thought it would be very difficult to do in hospitals, where we used to have people smoking all the time. But it's not that difficult. We don't have them smoke, meaning that when they come in, a lot of them get a nicotine patch or the gum, so that they don't have to go out smoking. So they're pretty much indoors. We have recreation on the third floor. We have a gym, we have a games room, we have an arts room. So there's a lot to do. What's our typical day like? Our typical day is very structured. That means that they wake up at a particular time, probably about 7 o'clock, and between 7 and 8, they take their showers. Because it's 2 people to a room and 2 people to a shower, it's not really difficult. It's pretty easy. They're able to do it within 1 hour. After that, they go for breakfast. At about 9 o'clock, we have medication. So the nurses, each one would have a team of about 7 usually, and they're responsible for giving their patients meds that they need. Most of these meds are detox meds. A lot of them are psych meds, depression, anxiety meds, stuff like that. After that, they have what we call like a community meeting, where they all kind of like talk about whatever is on their mind that day. Then at 10 o'clock, we have group therapy. We usually have what we call 2 group therapies before 1. So one from 10 to 11:30, the other from 11:30 to 1. There's a 15-minute break in there, in which they really stick together at that time. One of the groups is what we call a psychotherapeutic one, in which they just talk therapy. The other one is educational, where we just educate them about substance abuse and all that. Then at 1 o'clock, they go for lunch. They do lunch from 1 to 2. Then at 2, they have what we call activities groups. This is a more relaxed type of groups. Sometimes it's a movie about substance abuse. Sometimes it's art. Sometimes it's music, depending on the day. And then mostly after that, then it's recreation. That's when they go into the recreational space. Anybody that wants to use the gym or the activities, play cards, things like that, they do. After that, they go take a shower if they need to. Then we have dinner. And then after dinner, we have another group that is run by the tech. It's typically AA, in which we have a speaker come from outside to come and kind of like just have AA meeting. They usually finish this about 9 o'clock. They'll have about an hour or so where they can kind of like wind down, and then it's lights out. Once it's lights out, you have to be in your bedroom. The lights are off, and then we have the techs and the nurses that do 15-minute checks. Because we're mainly because although we're substance abuse, but the substance abuse we treat is mainly mental health. So typically our substance abuse clients are those that have tried to kill themselves. I'll be very honest with you. Those are the ones would come to us, not just your typical, I want to get clean. Because of that, we kind of like we treat the psych part of it very seriously. That means that we have 15-minute checks in which they go round and just check to make sure that everybody's in their room, they're documenting it. In the morning, the director of nursing comes, she checks it. So what I'm trying to paint for this the community, and I think I'm really painting it for the community, is that we have a facility that is probably not the substance abuse facility that you guys think about. We're not going to have people roaming the streets. We bring them in and we take them out. They have to sign that they go back to the emergency room or home or any other facility. The type of place that we have is what we think will also bring business. That's our hope to others to the Mill Street. We're going to have about 20, 25 professionals there during the day, every day. That means doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, therapists that will be part of the community. So I think that this is not as bad a use as you've been told for the community. It really is not. There are substance abuse facilities, there are other substance abuse facilities, but you can't paint everything with the same brush. This one is not bad for the community. We will not do anything that is bad for the community. So that's my...
Okay, Doctor, can I...
You gotta quiet down.
Doctor, can you...
We're gonna have an opportunity to ask questions. We'll have opportunity. Let's wait our turn, please.
Doctor, did you do an investigation as to the need in the Paterson community for your type of facility?
Yes, we did. And part of the reason when I started this is that we realized that we had placed a lot of our facilities in what we call middle-class areas. And what we realized was that we weren't serving all our clients. And that means that we had them in places like Bridgewater and Princeton. And we had people that came from other places and said, come on, what about our communities? Why isn't there any treatment there? We did case study in Paterson, and we found that there's really a lot of need for what we provide. In fact, I would think that what we provide is probably the most need.
So can I ask you a question? There's a facility nearby, Oasis. Is that a similar facility?
No, it's not.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, let me answer.
We are mainly a mental health spectrum facility. That means that we treat mainly the mental health spectrum in partial care, intensive outpatient, and outpatient. So, yep, we do. Yeah, they are. But we're mainly that. A lot of the facilities you have are primary substance abuse facilities. So, as I said, Gen Psych is mainly a mental health company. 90% or more of our clients, 95 are mental health. So we treat substance abuse as part of mental health. So the need is there. I don't think anybody can deny the need. We can say we don't want here, but the need for us is here. Mental health, as you guys know, is probably the fastest growing medical field, period. And the need is there. And that's where we come in. We feel that need.
Now, this may be a better question for your professional, but do you know the distance between your proposed location and the Oasis?
We don't, because we get our clientele from Paterson and everywhere else. So
please, guys, stop.
Mr. Rucker.
Yes, sir.
Can you calm it down? He's only asking a question. Quiet.
You're going to have an opportunity to speak. He's testifying. All right, ladies and gentlemen, one at a time. Okay, thank you. Continue, sir.
Yeah, so what I was saying is that we are different. So what we look at is we look at the distance between our facilities from each other. We don't look at the distance between us and other facilities because we all do different things. Oasis and us are totally different. The clientele is different.
Mr. Chairman, could we do something or clear the room or do something? This is intolerable. Oh, yeah.
Quiet.
A little common
Everybody
courtesy.
will have the opportunity to speak.
Like we said, the fear is that we would have clients that will be wandering the streets. And what I've taken the pains to explain is that we're not going to have that. Our clients are going to be indoors. They're usually indoors. We have other facilities. And if we look at other communities that we've had, they've never had problems with us. They've never had problems with our clients. I remember when we presented in California, the fear was that we would have police, and in Livingston, we'll have police being called. We hardly ever have that. Just because we know what we do in terms of therapy. We're good at what we do. So we're not going to have clients that are wandering the streets. So it doesn't really, it wouldn't matter to us much who is 3 steps away. Just as if it's a surgical center or if it's a GI center, we all do different things. The fact that something is substance abuse and mental health doesn't mean they're all the same. They're different types, just like there are different types of surgical centers. And it doesn't mean because you have one type, you don't need the other type.
The reason I'm asking is because there's requirements in terms of the variance. But again, you're expert and your attorney will address it.
Yeah, all right.
Doctor, could you please advise the board whether patients do come in with motor vehicles? Do they park their cars? Are the cars parked for extended periods, or are they dropped off somehow?
Yeah. So our clients are not allowed to bring their cars to the facility. All of them have to be dropped up. We have to pick them up to get in there. A lot of our intake procedure, what we usually do is that if somebody is in an emergency room and he wants to come in, we do an evaluation over the phone or over like a Zoom link. We talk to them, we do an eval there, we make sure that they're appropriate clients for our facility. Once we do that, then we send for them to be picked up. They're not allowed to have cars there. Most of our clients, as I said, they're acute. That means they're going through detoxification and rehabilitation. Our average length of stay is 7 days. Most of our clients are there, are gone within 7 days. And they've gone to other locations. Some will do rehab, and some might stay up to 14 or maybe even 21 days. But the average length of stay of our clients is 7 days, just like you have in a hospital. So we're not the type of facility in which you have people that will bring their care there and they're there for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. They're there for treatment that we offer, the detoxification. Mainly, we detox them and then we send them off to a rehab center or to other treatment that they need or to home or something like that. But they don't bring in cars.
Doctor, could you advise the board, since this seems to be maybe an issue with our neighbors or with the board itself, as to the closest facility that may exist if in Paterson or outlying areas that might be similar to yours?
Just hold on one moment. Sir, I see you. You're going to have the opportunity to ask a question. You're going to have that opportunity when he's done. Just let him finish. So we're clear. You will have the opportunity to ask him questions. You will have the opportunity to ask the experts questions. You just have to let him finish. At the end, you'll have the opportunity to make a statement and give comments.
Yeah. So, like I said, I know that there are other there's substance abuse facilities in Paterson. I'm not exactly sure about the distance. As I said, I'm not in the habit of looking up other facilities that is close to any of our facilities. But I do know that Paterson has some facilities, straight and narrow, some others that are quite big. A lot of them are different from us. I don't want to go into how different they are from us, but they are.
Just so, counsel, and again, because I know he's a lay witness, he's a principal. Having said that, do we know how far Oasis is from this location? Did you do? No, I know. I understand it's 3 blocks, but I want to know.
Well, this witness does not, so perhaps another witness
right.
can.
Can we determine real quick do we know if we have a survey or some sort of?
I don't know that answer.
Can you just take a moment and speak to your expert and let us know, because it is an issue. It's part of the variance. Mr. Paparozzi will address it. Why it's a concern. It's an important concern that we need the answer to, though.
Right, but the main issue is that both of the facilities would be doing different services. I think that's the main issue too.
Oasis, from what I know, is not a residential. It's not a state licensed residential substance abuse facility, so it's not the same type of facility.
Yeah, doctor, it doesn't have to be the same type of facility. The code says any shelter greater than 15 occupants. It doesn't specify whether it's a detox or a mental illness or just a homeless shelter. It just says a shelter greater than 15 people cannot be located within 1,500 feet of each other.
We don't know what it is because it wasn't an issue that has come up before. So,
Well, that's not true. That's not true, sir.
Let I answer that. We don't fall into that category. So we're not, when you look at the state classifications, we're under a total different division. So they're under Division of Community Affairs. We're under Division of DMAS, Mental Health and Substance Abuse, a totally different state division. We're not a shelter. So it's not a similar type facility. We're a medical facility.
It is by definition by the Paterson Code, and it was in my letter under the third issue dated July 24th, 2021.
don't have it, sorry. Never given to me. I have been the attorney of record for 5 months, and your letters just don't come to me. Sorry, it just doesn't.
Yeah, that's all.
That would be the extent of the direct examination of Dr. Olanami. He would be subject to the board's cross-examination, and whoever else would like to ask him a question. He's here.
Thank you, Chairman. Doctor, you said that you deal with, your proposal is to deal with mental illness more than substance abuse. So if the hospital calls you up, for example, and somebody OD'd and they have an issue, and they call them to go to your facility, you don't take them?
If they're substance abuse or mental health, I mean, we'll take them as long as, for this facility, we'll take them as long as they're primary substance abuse. But the type of clients we'll get referred are clients that have substance abuse, also have other mental illness with them. But we will take them. Now, if somebody has a mental health and some substance, but the mental illness part is the major part, then they don't come here, they go to a psychiatric facility.
Okay, well then, you said that the average stay is seven days.
Correct.
How do you cure the mental illness in 7 days?
Well, this is my field, guys. So we don't cure the mental illness in 7 days. We obviously don't. This is mainly, so what I said is, this is primary detoxification. So we have different levels of care. We will do the detoxification in 5 to 7 days. While there, though, the reason why they come to us is that there are different types of detox. There are some people that are fragile even when they're detoxing. So they require specialized mental health care even when they're detoxing. There are people that are not very fragile. You bring them in, they're sorry, they want to get better, they're very hopeful. There are also people that have severe depression, they're suicidal, they come to us. Now, when we finish the detoxification, then we transfer them to another level of care where we have, that's why I said we have the partial care, and then which is they come 5 days a week from home and they do 6 hours. They do that for about 3 to 4 weeks. Then we transfer them to intensive outpatient, and they do that for about 6 to 8 weeks. They come 3 days a week, 3 hours a day. After that, we transfer them to the outpatient. They see a therapist. So it usually will, somebody like that, it usually take about 6 months before you can get rid of it. But the continuum of care we offer is why we're different. We're the only ones that do this continuum of care. Maybe Princeton House also to some aspect. But we don't just detox them and put them on the streets. We move them from facility to facility treatment.
But what happens if...
But hold on real quick. So just so I'm clear, you say transfer. Do they transfer to another facility?
It depends. So if they require rehabilitation that we're not giving, they transfer to another facility. But most of our clients will go home. So they'll do 7 days detox. Most of them have homes. Most of them will go back home, and they come from home 5 days a week. Some of them will go to sober living homes, and they'll come to our facilities 5 days a week. So some have homes to go to. Some have burned the bridges. Those that have homes to go to will go home and come 5 days a week. Those that don't, we'll send them to sober living facilities where they will live in the sober homes that you have, and they'll come 5 days a week. But we're still treating them.
Then, as I was just saying, if you get someone from a drug abuse from the hospital, and now it's an adult, after 2 days, they want to sign themselves out. How do you keep them from signing themselves out?
So, like I said, we're not a locked unit, so obviously we can't force somebody to stay. But the most important thing
Well, if you can't force them to stay, that was the point I was... Please, wait.
Yeah.
Let me speak, folks. If you can't force them to stay, how do you know they're not going right out on the street?
We don't let them, like I said, we don't discharge them to the streets.
Well, but if somebody signs themselves out, sir, if I'm there and I'm an adult, and after 2 days, I don't want to stay anymore, how can you force them to stay?
The first thing we do is that we develop a therapeutic relation. That's why it's called treatment. You don't just bring in people and think you can stop them. You have to build a relationship with them. You build a therapeutic relationship with them. So if they want to sign in, the tech comes and talks to them, the nurse comes and talks to them, the doctor comes and comes there. If they still want to sign out, then you ask them where they want to go to, and we transfer to where they want to go to. We've done detox for a long time. We've never had anybody walk out on the streets. We've never had that.
You feed your patients 3 times a day.
Correct.
And you said the kitchen is only for warming. Where does the food come from?
So we have because of the difficulty with putting in a kitchen in that location. So what we have is is a kitchen like a restaurant. So we usually have like a contract with the restaurant. They make the food and they bring it in.
Where do they park when they bring it in?
Well, it's delivery. It's delivery. I believe that any facility, anything we put there is going to have delivery.
But where do they park?
Sure. They'll park. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that whatever facility is there, if it's a hospital, if it's a surgical center, there's going to be times in which we need delivery. We can park right on the street there while they bring it in. Remember that we have 2 security officers and techs there. They would go to the car, bringing the food in. So the person that is delivering the food is just a very brief delivery. They're there for like a minute.
But you're talking possibly 38 males. So it's not going to be in a car.
It's a van, so they park in a van there. I think that parking a van for a little while, 1 to 2 minutes, in which somebody comes in, picks up the food, and the van goes, I think that's a little thing in that area. And it's a little thing in that area. There are other places.
Chairman.
Okay, folks, please.
Excuse me, let me just ask a question. Oh.
Commissioner Burrell.
Wait, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. Where do your professionals park?
We have parking spots that were contracted. Jeff is going to speak about it. Mr. Abrams is going to speak about it.
Jeff Abrams, the owner of this facility, will speak about parking because he has a contract now with the parking authority, and he will testify as to parking.
Do we pre-mark the contract so I can take a look at it?
Yeah, we need to see some sort of lease.
And out of turn? You want to take it out of turn?
No, I just want to review it in advance.
That's what I mean, out of turn.
I mean, if you have an issue with the review it in
No.
advance.
You'd have to wait. He has to pull it out of his file. I asked him to bring it, by the way.
Yeah, when the board finishes, then you could go. Yeah. Okay.
Gary, are you done?
No. I want to see where if there's a lease, because... I'm sorry? Okay.
I haven't seen it either before, so you'll have to give me a moment.
Yeah, okay, well, Doctor, you have to understand that street, you're not allowed to park on the street.
Yes, we understand that.
And even for a short period of time, cars cannot pass. I've been at that site, at three different times just for this application, and I couldn't park. So you really can't do that. You just can't. That's all I have.
Well, you gotta remember, this has been a commercial building for the last 25, 30 years. So
That's true,
there have
Mr.
been
Rubin.
deliveries for 25, 30 years to this building. The state has had offices there. Others have had offices there. It's been a commercial building for the longest time. In any case, I do have the lease agreement dated November 30th, 1983. And if you want to mark it as A1 in these proceedings, I have no problem with that, even though...
Sorry. Yes, we'll mark it as A1. We'll just pre-mark it as A1 and I'll leave it.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes, I have a question.
One second.
If we could mark it first and take care of the mechanics of this. No, first time I saw that one. Yeah, I'll mark it, it's okay. Kind of old when you see what mayor signed it. Honorable Frank Larry Graves.
Any commissioner have questions of the doctor?
Yes, doctor, I have a concern. You said that you have a very structured way of admitting people into your institution.
Correct.
Okay? Now, but what I'm reading is like most of the people are going to come to you from the emergency room. They either OD'd or have a mental problem. So how is it that you have this strict and organized system of taking people in when they just come in from the street, from the emergency? How about if that person that comes to you doesn't have a house or anything like that? It's off the street, and he goes to the emergency and comes to you. How is your system structured to take him in the same way, the right way?
Yeah, so we get referrals. So we don't have people just walking from the emergency room. We get referrals from the therapists that work for the emergency room. So there's certain counselors, state counselors that are part of the opiate program mainly, that work in the emergency room. So over the past 5-10 years, they've placed them in emergency rooms. They're almost like a rapid response team because they know that that is the most likely time they can get an addict. You've got to get them, if you really want to give them help, you've got to get them at the period where they're vulnerable. And so what happens is that generally speaking, if there's an overdose, which a lot of our clients, or if something severe has happened, once the doctor clears, so they go through the medical. So the medical would clear them before. Once the medical clears them, the emergency room calls the counselors in immediately. They're good at what they do. They sit down and they talk to them about treatment. They convince them. They talk to them about the different options. If they think that they're a good fit for our program, they'll call us and say, we have somebody for you. He's going to need detoxification. He's going to need help. He's got some issues. They've been depressed for some time, so we think he needs to come with it. So they have a lot of facilities that they work with, and they put different people in different facilities. Then we would put them on the phone or Zoom. We would do a brief, like a 15-minute interview, make sure that they want to come, make sure that they're doing this voluntarily, they're doing this willingly, and if we think they're a good candidate, we'll bring them in.
Yeah, but what if they come to you and after a few days at the center, they say, we want to go home, and the person, we want to get out, and they don't have a house where to go. How do you protect the neighborhood when that happens? If they don't have a house and they want to leave for 2 days later?
Well, the difference between us.
Quiet, please, quiet.
One
Quiet.
of the difference between us, and it is what it is, but is that most where insurance.
Wait. What it is? What it is?
No. What I mean that the difference. Let me explain the difference. The difference between us is that we are insurance only. That's what it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on one moment. Our court reporter is unable to transcribe what's going on because it's too loud. Please.
Yeah.
Please explain. It is what it is. I need to know that.
I will. We're insurance only. Obviously, we would love to be a company that takes all spectrum, but we're usually not. So that's what I meant by it is what it is, that we accept, you have to have private insurance to come to us. That is what I meant by it is what it is. You have to have private insurance to come to us.
So the hospitals won't call you if there's a guy that's out in the street that's OD'd and goes to the emergency. They wouldn't call you because that person doesn't have insurance.
They will not call us.
So then what's the purpose?
They would call us.
How can you help?
Well, they'll call us only. We can't help everybody.
If they have to have insurance and everything, why do they have to go to your center? That could be anywhere.
Yeah, but they would only call us if they think they're a good fit. As I said, they can go anywhere, but we're not anywhere.
What do you call a good fit?
Well, somebody that really wants to get help and really needs the help. The type of treatment we provide is really very specialized. It's not a coincidence that we've grown to become one of the biggest behavioral health facilities in New Jersey, if not the biggest, in the past 10 years. The reason we treat more people than anybody else in New Jersey. The reason why we have is that we're good at what we do and we care for our clients. So we're not somebody that just came out of town to open a detox. We've been around here for 14 years and we've been treating thousands of New Jerseyans. We treat more New Jerseyans than any other company in New Jersey.
And all of those New Jerseyans have excellent insurance and they're doing well financially, I guess, when they come to you.
Well, most of our clients are not doing well financially. Most of our clientele are not doing well.
Well, how could they afford you if you're asking for excellent medical plan and insurance?
As you know, in New Jersey, a lot of the public insurance is done by the state. So if you have Medicaid, public insurance, the state contracts for that treatment. We're a private facility, so we are not part of that state contract. So if the state is paying for it, the state is contracting for who is getting the treatment. We're not on that list of facilities. So what I mean is that we are private insurance, so usually with our clientele, somebody is buying that insurance.
I have a question.
All right.
Quiet.
Okay, doctor, over here.
Oh, yeah.
I have a question for you, or maybe various questions. I worked in mental health in the finance department for 25 years. So I am impartial to helping our community, but then I also understand their concerns. I'm in both. Now, when you say private insurance, you're not accepting Medicaid because are you nonprofit or is it profit?
We're for profit.
We're for profit, okay. So then that means that it's exclusive to those who have private insurance, which sometimes is not medium income.
In New Jersey, it's usually low to medium, working class. Most of our clientele are working class. They work for the government, they work for the, but they're not, most of them are not rich people.
Okay.
Most of them
The reason why I say this, like I said, I worked in the finance aspect. I know very well, because I have private insurance, that mental health services and substance use is very, well, sometimes it's not even covered at 100%. Okay? You might have maybe 3 weeks of service for the year. You can exhaust whatever it is for a year. So you're saying your substance, but then you also have an inclination to mental health. How severe is the mental health status of some of these people? Are we talking schizophrenia? Are we just talking, because one thing is, I have a drug problem, and I'm suicidal, that's why I'm taking drugs to see if I can forget about my problems and everything. I understand that. But another thing is, if you have people with severe mental health issues that are also, because now you said your facility is locked, okay? So, meaning it's locked because some people are severely having issues, correct or not?
Not correct.
Okay.
It's so,
Explain.
So the doors are not open. That means that you cannot just walk in and out. It's that because we're accountable to our clients because of the obvious insurance requirement. So if I'm treating somebody that was just discharged from a hospital suicidal, and I let the person just walk out on the street onto the bridge and hang themselves, they'll take my license pretty much.
True.
So yes, we can. A locked unit is one in which even if you want to go out, you can't. They're double locked and all that. We're not that. That means that people come in and out, but you're just not able to walk out. There's a process to come. We can't hold you against your will, but you can't just walk out of the door. There's a process in which we get you out if you want to.
I understand that. Another question then. There is a facility not too far, yes, I agree with our residents, not too far. What the difference is, I'm not sure. I understand that there are different levels, and he is correct, about mental health services that are provided for the people. I have another question. Is this for Paterson residents only, or is this open to Passaic County, or is this open to all the county?
It's open to all the county. Now, I think one of the great misconceptions when we say we're an insurance-only facility is that the population here doesn't have private insurance. What we've realized is pretty much about half the population has private insurance. And so the misconception that they don't have. And those people that have private insurance in the community also have a right to be treated in their community. So people in Paterson that have private insurance may want to be treated in Paterson. It's easy for their loved ones to visit them. If we have a facility like that, most of the clientele is going to come from the surrounding area. They come from the surrounding area because it's convenient. But there are mainly people that are coming from homes that have parents that have private insurance. So there are different levels of care with treatment. And so we treat those with private insurance, but there are other facilities that will treat those with Medicaid and Medicare.
Okay.
So there are different levels.
So you mean, since you're talking about private insurance, do you take HMO or just PPO?
No, we're HMO mainly. So we're in network with all insurances. So if you have HMO, we will treat you. And we don't let insurance running out not treat you. Because in the end, if your mental health is more of a liability for us, and I'll be very frank, if you're treating somebody, you stop treating them because the insurance ran out, and they go do something to themselves. That's more of a liability. It's just easier and much better clinical work to take care of them. So if we start treating you, we're not going to let your insurance run out not to treat you. We'll finish treating you, and then we'll kind of like see what we can do or not do.
How's that? How are you going to not be able to let the insurance finish? I'm sorry.
Sorry?
How are you going to not let the insurance finish when you're treating? Let's say somebody has insurance, it runs out. What are you going to do?
A lot of the insurance laws have been changed. So they changed them about 5 years ago. And when I first started doing this, substance abuse, mental insurance used to run out. Now, what they do is that they step you to a less level of care. So it's going to be like insurance never runs out totally. So you would always have the outpatient treatment. But let's assume that we think you're in detox, and the insurance company says, sorry, and we think you can go home. Well, we're going to finish detoxing you, and then we'll move you to the next level of care. And as part of what we do, you have to do that. That's part of what we do. And that's really the balance. You're not going to get paid full for everything, but it's the balance we have to face. But insurance running out in this day and age for mental health is really not an issue anymore. It really is not. I think that's been fixed mainly.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Doctor, how are you? Commissioner Vega.
Hello?
My colleagues touched on a lot of questions that I had. So let's get into security. Obviously, we're talking about mental health. When you say security, what do you mean by security? You have security police officers, you have... how are you going to secure this building?
So what we do, so there are two types of security. One is the electronic one, and that goes a long way. You obviously do have a security company do an analysis. They prescribe where you need the cameras to be in. The cameras generally are in the nurses' stations, and there's somebody there that is monitoring it all the time. So you have cameras on all the doors and all that stuff. You also have sensors on windows that somebody may break or open or things like that. So you have a security, what I call a security envelope, in which there are cameras, there are sensors. So if somebody goes out or not, we'll know. Now, when I say we hire security, we found over the years that the best security we can hire are retired police officers. And that's really what we use. There are lots of them. A lot of them retire early. They're looking for something else that is not as hectic to do. We found out that they're also very loyal. They tend to stay for a long time. So in a facility like this, any security officer we hire is probably going to be a retired cop. They've been on the beat. They've worked in this neighborhood for a long time. They know what to do. We usually have 2 shifts. So we'll have 8 security officers on staff, and then we also have a chief of security. By 8, I mean they do 3 days on, 4 days off. Then the week they do 4 days on, 3 days off. They do 12-hour shifts usually. And they kind of like rotate them that way so that they don't get fatigued and all that stuff. So the security, obviously they don't carry guns and all that, but there are people that have done 20, 30 years in the police force we would normally hire.
Doctor, what is your protocol if somebody leaves that building?
And if somebody really leaves against it, we'll call the police. Because we're mainly mental health, we assume that you're a danger, period. So we don't have people leave, but if for whatever reason you manage to get out, then we will call the police and we will find you. Just like a protocol we will use in other of our outpatient facilities, in which people go home. So in our outpatient facility, they go home, they come in. But if somebody walks out of that facility before the time is over, we're going to call police and get them. We don't have to do it often, but we've had situations where somebody walks out and then you find them kind of like by the river and they're about to jump. So we really can't afford people walking out of our facilities. Not because it's mental health mainly.
And speaking of that, your facility is a few feet away from a school where there's children.
The misconception.
And like I said, I'm not here to bash, because like I said, I worked in mental health and my heart goes because I know people who really need the help. I'm not against that, by no means. But location is very important.
That's what I was
The
going to,
area
yeah.
is very important. This facility, I agree, it can be very useful and helpful. But location-wise, by a school, you're talking about the school is across the street diagonally. Okay? And the daycare, and then you have the senior building, you have a building there. So, you know, and like I said, I understand, and I know you in your heart understand, you know, that if this was, and if the surroundings were a little bit different, you know, I would say, you know, I don't see the problem. But when you have a school so close, we as a community, we have to think about our children. And I'm not saying maybe no one will ever leave your facility, you know, but what if? And if there's always a what if or a minute chance that something can happen, sometimes it's going to lay more towards that end that something can
happen. Yep. Let me address that. The misconception is that people with mental illness are dangerous.
They are.
No, wait a minute.
Quiet, please.
He is
That's a
right
common
at certain points. He's
misconception.
right at certain points.
People with untreated mental illness sometimes can be dangerous. But people in treatment, people in substance abuse, with substance abuse and in treatment are not any more dangerous than any of us. That's a misconception. If we can be near a school, or if you can be near a school, people with mental illness, substance abuse too can be near a school. They're not, the misconception is they're going to go out and attack the kids. They don't. They're not criminals. And the misconception is to treat them like criminals. The reason that if somebody has diabetes, you won't treat them like a criminal. The fact that somebody has mental illness doesn't mean that they're criminals. People that are under treatment are even safer than, so you would have people on the streets. Somebody with substance abuse problem that is in a facility is about 100 times safer than somebody that is out on the street. So,
Okay, Commissioner, we have tons of people that need to speak, so if you can cut your questions. Commissioner,
That was my question, but
Mr. Chairman, I do have a couple of questions.
I'll pass it by.
Okay.
Pass it by.
Commissioner Watkins. How you doing, doctor?
I'm good.
Good. Do you know if the owner is here and if you have a planner? Are they here tonight? That's who we
If you're
need to
talking
direct
about
a lot of
the-
these questions
If you're
to.
talking about the owner of the building,
Owner of the building,
that
yes.
person is here.
That person is here tonight.
And we do have a professional planner to testify for this application who is also here.
Just
Okay, so with that being said,
Wait, just for clarification, when you say owner of the building, who's the owner of the applicant? Is it not the owner of the building? It's this
Yes.
gentleman, correct? Yes, okay.
He is not the owner, he's under contract, so he is the principal of the applicant.
He is the principal of the applicant.
Correct.
Okay,
I
and the
think
other witness is the owner of the property?
We put that in writing to you
Yeah.
earlier. Jeffrey Abrams is here as representing the ownership, and he is part of the ownership of the site itself.
Okay,
And they do own it today.
thank you.
that's who we need to speak to.
Commissioner from, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tato, are you a resident of City of Paterson?
no, I'm not.
You're not. How many of your facility are in the middle of the city, located like in the middle of the community?
We have one in Jersey City that is right on Journal Street.
What make you believe that this is or maybe that's not the question. Why do you think this is a great project here in our City of Paterson, and how the residents are going to benefit from this project?
Well, to tell the truth, when you look for a facility like this, it's not like you're looking for a home. You don't have, I guess, the luxury of kind of like targeting a particular city and going to look for a place in that city. What you do is that you go and you look for the right building on the facility, the right building. Once you find the right building, then you will now obviously look at the community and think, okay, this is the right building, I can lease it. Is there zoning or not? Usually there is not. So we have to do this in New Jersey, everywhere. And then once you do that, then you now look at the feasibility. And the feasibility of this place could benefit. Like I said, the misconception is that people in Paterson do not have insurance. So don't bring insurance facilities to them. Just bring Medicaid facilities. But that's not what we've learned. Because we've been in New Jersey throughout, we've realized that people everywhere have insurance. And so that's where our clientele, and they're underserved. So we've figured that Paterson is not well served in that respect. That means that most places that have residential, substance, mental health facilities like ours, they go to the other facilities and they think, well, we can't go here because, well, they don't have insurance, they're Medicaid. But we don't do that. We've realized that most of our clientele, we look at where our clientele come from, and they come from Paterson. We have a facility in Livingston. We have people coming from Paterson. So we realize that there are people there in those facilities that need to be served. So we go into those facilities to serve them. We don't say, well, it's only just Medicaid facilities that should go to Paterson.
Understood, Doctor. After the patient finish with their treatment, with the medication, where do they go?
Like I said, we have what we call partial care. So we send them mainly to partial care. There's rehab, but as you may know, insurance companies don't like paying for rehabs. So they pay for detox, and they want them to come to us for intensive outpatient. It's less cost for them. So what we do is that if they have a home, or most of them have a home, but a lot of them have burned the bridges, as you know. If they burn the bridges and the family don't want them back, then they go to sober homes. We find them a sober home like an Oxford House or one of the sober homes that accept them. They go for interviews mainly, they get accepted there, and then they come to our facility. We have transportation, so we go get them every day and send them back. If they have a home to go to, then they go home. Like I said, we have about 8 facilities all over New Jersey. So most of the time we'll find somewhere within 30 minutes that you can go to for treatment, for the rest of the treatment.
In another word, you don't know where they go. They could end up on the street, they can end up going home, they could, where do they go? What, do you have like a system or something that you guys, that you guys make sure that they go to the family member, that they go to somebody home?
Oh yes, yes. We have because we have to report to the insurance companies what happens with their clientele. They want the data. So for example, if an insurance company sends somebody to us and pays for it, we need to go, we have discharge planners that call them back and say, okay, we sent you this place, how's the sober living home? Is everything okay? Are you going for your treatment? Is everything okay? We call the treatment, we make sure that we have to report that data to the insurance companies quarterly. Because the insurance companies say, okay, you admitted 80%, how many did follow up, how many relapsed after 1 week? So we keep all that data with us, so we know where exactly all our patients is. As I said, we cannot afford, if you're substance abuse alone, you don't have that responsibility. But because we're mainly mental health, we can't afford our clientele, somebody that just overdosed 1 week ago, to be on the streets where we don't know where it is. We can't do that.
Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Doctor, do you handle all the referrals?
As a facility?
Yes.
No, we don't. That means that we handle those that we can handle. Some of them we send to sister facilities if they're more convenient.
Also, Paterson residents need to know that this facility is open to New York and all of New Jersey.
Yes.
It is. It is.
I know it is. So you're actually taking the space away from Paterson residents if they're not using your facility.
And you didn't mention
Like I
it.
said, we have Paterson residents that come to our Livingston facility. So it's not a system in which we're only going to take Paterson. If a Paterson resident comes to a Livingston facility or a Wayne facility, we'll admit them. We don't discriminate against where you're coming from. It doesn't matter to us. So if somebody else is coming to Paterson or Paterson residents are coming to Livingston, we don't say, oh, you live in Paterson, we're not admitting you because you don't live. We don't do that. We can't even do that.
I heard you say you didn't do any surveys. Are you aware that there are over 10 to 20 facilities in Paterson already?
Already.
I know that there are a lot of them, but as I said, we don't look at that when we open facilities.
But it helps. It helps.
Well, you should.
But because we look at facilities that offer the same like us. So as I said, there might be 35 facilities, right, in Paterson, but none of them are primary type of insurance in which if you have insurance and you want a bed, if you want a room with two of you, in which you want your own bathroom and things like that, that's a different level. It's not the system we created, but that is the system that we run onto. There's a certain clientele that has insurance that wants that. It's just like you go to a hotel.
Doctor, if you don't mind me asking this, what town do you live in?
Morris County.
Is this facility in Morris County?
Quiet.
Yes, we do actually. We have.
You have this facility in Morris County?
In Morris County, we do. Yep.
Okay.
And in Morris County, we have this facility there.
Okay.
In Morris County?
Yeah.
All right, I have more questions, but they're for the owner. Thank you.
Commissioner.
Thank you. Doctor, I have a question for you.
Sorry,
Most of the locations that I've been looking at right now, I see that they're pretty remote to where the community lies, and they're away. They're in building structures, they're suites. The one in Jersey City says suite number 400. How big is that, and how many patients are there compared to the one that you're trying to build here in Paterson?
The one in Jersey on General Street is about 6,000 square foot. We treat mainly partial care outpatients, so we have a lot more clientele there because they come from home and they go back home. So we'd have about 50 clients that come in and out daily, and about another 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 that come in on a weekly basis. Most of them come from the community.
But so then, the one that you're trying to do here in Paterson you have bedrooms, so they're going to be inpatient.
Correct.
So this one would be different than the one that you currently have in Jersey City.
Correct. The only other inpatient that we have like this is in California. That's rural. So I said, so there are different levels. Some people want the rural. Some people want to be close to the city. So we have different types. We have them in rural areas, in which is on 15 acres with a very population, and we have them in places like this. So we have them in different places. That's it.
All right, we're going to open up to the commissioner. Okay.
Yeah.
Doctor, so you say you have a location in Wayne.
Correct.
How long have you been in Wayne for?
Wayne is one of our new ones, so we opened it during COVID. So about a year now.
So how many Paterson residents went there for service?
I don't have the figures, but I know when I look at the census, I see the Paterson address in Wayne, and I also see in Livingston.
So as you know, Paterson is a low-income city.
Correct.
A lot of people don't have private insurance. So how are you serving the people of Paterson by opening a location here?
That's a misconception. A lot of people don't have private insurance, but some do. There's a certain number that do. Also, we take Medicaid for the kids. So we have a system with the Medicaid for the kids that we can. So a lot of our kids that come to all those our facilities are kids from low-income areas that have only Medicaid.
So you're saying you'll accept cares too. So are you gonna have a place for the parents to stay there, or the cares and the adult they'll be all mixed together in those rooms?
No, the kids is outpatient. So our kid facility is outpatient. This is inpatient. So like I said, we're mainly outpatient. We really have some inpatient, 1, 2 inpatient, but we're really mainly outpatient. People go home and come back. This is not that type of place. This is a place which they stay in, 38, yeah. But most of our clientele go home and come back on a daily basis.
Okay. For the people that are staying overnight, like each of the rooms, will they have like access control so nobody just can walk out? Or the doors are open for them and they can go out anytime they want?
Well, it's an enclosed building, so the doors open into a hallway. So if the doors are locked, but not key locked, you're not allowed to do that. But the doors are locked, and then you open it to a hallway, and then at the end of the hallway, you have the elevator, and then you have a door that is obviously has an exit sign and is alarmed. So if you decide you're going to just walk out, the alarm is going to go off. You still have security down there. So even if you just walk out of your suite and the alarm goes off, the security down there is waiting for you.
So how many security will you have on duty per?
2.
Per
shift.
So if 2 patients just run out of their room and start running, and you only have 2 security guards, they're not gonna cut you out like right away.
Theoretically, yes, but in practice, we don't have that. I mean, we have people that are really looking for help. So the clients we treat, they're really looking for help. They're talking to their providers, and they're really very motivated at this point. Obviously, the trick for us is to keep that motivation. When people come in like that, they're very motivated. They want to get better. They've done things, they've failed many times, and this is the time. So those 7 to 10 days that they're with us, that's not the problem. They're really motivated when they're there. The problem comes in 1 month after, 2 months after, 3 months after, if you can keep that motivation. So that's why I said we don't have people running out and all that stuff, because By the time the emergency room calls us, those guys know what they're doing. They're looking for people that are really motivated, that are looking for treatment. They're not looking for a facility where, they put 20 of you in a room and they buy pizza and they put on the TV. That's not what we are. We are a facility that we have therapists, they're all licensed, we have psychiatrists over there, and we provide good care. That's why we've grown. If we don't provide good care, we wouldn't have grown so much in 10 years.
Okay.
And we're bringing that to Paterson, the good treatment. None.
Please, everybody stop. All right, so now you're going to have an opportunity to ask questions. Here's what I'm going to ask. We're going to go one at a time. You're going to come up close so the microphone can catch you. And I would just ask, please just don't repeat questions. If you hear somebody else ask a question, because we have multiple people, so we can move it along. So we're going to start with the young lady right there standing.
Matter of fact, excuse me.
All right, or we'll start with you, I guess.
We're not starting with me. We're not
The
starting
ladies
with me.
first.
In
Or not.
order for us to present to this board what is necessary, Conan Mills Tenant Association will speak first. I will speak after. Young man, let me finish. Let me finish. Excuse me. Allow me to finish. They will speak, and we're just as organized as the group that's here. So we have a psychologist here who's going to speak as well. So allow.
Protocol of the meeting, sir, and you're gonna step back. Now's the time to ask questions of the witness.
What did you say to me?
We're gonna ask questions of the witness. That's how we're gonna run the meeting. This is how we're gonna run
What
it.
did you say at the end of that?
I said this is how we're gonna run it, or you're not gonna get a chance to ask questions.
And who's going to put me out? Matter of fact, y'all talk first. I'm right after you. Go ahead. Lost your mind. Go ahead.
Good evening. Good evening. Okay. Good evening. My name is Kimisha Rogers Jones, and Kimisha, Kimmeshia Rogers Jones.
And my name is Paula Outford. We represent the Conan Mills Tenants Association at 13.5 Van Houten Street, which is just steps away from where this is being proposed. Wanted to just give you a quick visual that you have several buildings in the area. Just one block, not two, one block away is public school number 2, which is the largest autistic school in the city of Paterson. Then just one block extra, which is the second block, is Oasis for children. And then if you go in another direction, you have College Achieve, which is just one block away. Then we have Tiny Tots, which is directly across the street from them. And then we have Dawn Treader, which is directly next to College Achieve. Yesterday, I received a call.
Wait, so, ma'am, you're gonna have an opportunity to say anything about calls, everything at the end. Do you have questions of the witness?
Yes, we do.
All right, let's ask the
So
question.
first, I want to address the doctor. We are clear that we're not anti-mental health services. You can't hear me? Oh, I'm sorry. We're not anti-mental health services. I hear he keeps repeating that. We do understand that most addicts have a dual diagnosis, which is addictions and mental health services. And what I want to ask him, because he keeps saying is mental health, but I need him to definitely state that this is a rehabilitation center that also treats patients who have, I'm not done. Right. Who treats patients with a mental health disorder, that they have dual diagnosis, but this is not a mental health facility. This is a drug treatment facility. Am I correct? Correct. Okay, thank you. He said correct.
He has to speak.
Okay.
Hello. So, just in answering your questions, yes, we're substance abuse. This facility is a substance abuse facility, primary substance abuse, but 90 to 95% of our clientele are mainly mental health. But this would be primary substance abuse, but we only treat people with substance abuse that have other mental illness, not.
Right, it's a dual diagnosis, correct? Okay, thank you. And so my other question to you was, because I live I reside at 20 Mill Street, which is next door to where this proposed site is, and I would like to know what your exit plan is for those patients who decide that they are going to leave. How can you guarantee to us that when they give you an address, it won't be Rosa Parks Boulevard, it won't be Carroll Street, which is the spot to pick up $3 heroin? So what is your exit plan to ensure that those people who do not live in Paterson, who decide to come here specifically because they know the proximity to the $3 bags of heroin, what are you going to do about those clients that decide they want to leave and they don't live in Paterson but they want to stay here? What is your plan for those people? Are you just leaving them there? Because we have enough of them. I can show you pictures of people camping out at your door right now. So what is your exit plan to ensure that people, I'm not done, sir, that people who do not live in this city go home, like back to Morristown? How can you ensure that? What's the plan?
Yeah, like we said before, or like I said before, we bring in all our clients and we take them home, or we take them to other sober living facilities. We've been doing this for a long time. We don't have clients that just walk out. Those are not our clients. And I think that you may be mixing us up with other types of facilities. We can't paint everybody with the same brush. If you look at our facilities, we're not the type of facility that people walk out on the streets. We provide transportation, and we take them home or we take them back to the emergency room in which they are in. So I think that the community will really benefit from our services. I really do. I know that once any community, and I understand that, once any community hears substance abuse, everybody kind of like thought, no, not here, you go put it near your house, not here. But there are some types of substance abuse facilities, and I know that you have a lot of them in Paterson here, in which people come in, go out, and they drop it in there. But there are also some good ones. There are also some good ones.
You didn't answer my
question.
I asked you, what was the exit plan? What is the exit plan to ensure that those people go home? What is your plan? We're not anti-mental health or addiction services. We have a lot of them here. And we also have a lot of people who come here who don't complete the programs, which is part of addiction. This is a lifelong battle. So we understand that people come in, they leave, they don't stay. We get that. But what is your plan when they decide, and don't tell me that, oh, we are a facility where people don't leave. Show me, where's that? Let me see that, where people don't leave. Because I know you have the stats to show that people don't do well in rehab. If it's their first time, second time, third time, that's what happens. This is a lifelong battle. So to tell me that we're not the type of facility that doesn't have people who leave, you're lying. That's a lie. That's a lie. And I work in addiction. That's a lie.
And the other question that I had when I was alluding, before you cut me off, I was alluding to asking, how is any of this beneficial to those children in which I just named at all of those different schools, when they already don't have playgrounds? This entire city, we're talking about bringing this here, and there is not one recreation center here in the city. So I just want to, my question is, how does this benefit those children who are already suffering? That's my question.
We can't benefit everybody. We don't benefit those. We benefit those with mental illness, those with substance abuse that are suffering.
So then they come.
That's who we benefit. We also have children we treat that benefit from us.
I'm asking for a little courtesy here. I'm going to make a statement first.
I have 2 minutes for the client. Just ask it.
At this point, no. I have the podium. I have the podium. I would like to have the podium.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, this is the footprint of the Great Falls. We've spent hundreds of millions of dollars to revive the Great Falls. That's one. We have a vagrant problem that's so extreme in that area right now that people are calling me and others on a consistent basis. I think, where's Councilman Jackson? He gets 1,000 calls, and I end up getting them. So we're spending this money on Castula Pool, the footprint of the falls. We have an enormous vagrant problem now. Yes. Now, I've talked to the doctor. I've talked to the owner of the building. I'm not against drug programs or mental health programs. But in this footprint that this city has worked so hard to build, along with the stadium, I don't want any more vagrants leaving from around the county, coming here and staying here. I want to say to you, commissioners, the questions that you asked was right on time. I usually don't come to this board meeting, and the chairman will tell you. But when I do come, I come. I represent those tenants and that area, and I will fight to the last breath to make sure they get what they need. And I'm going to close this off with this. Counselor, I'm a very funny individual. Your disrespectful conversations in public, I'm not going to stand for it. I'm not going to take it. You work for us. And I think sometimes people that work for us forget that. This has been a very highly charged issue. When you get this many people in a room, you know it's a problem. And when you don't treat us the way we want to be treated and how we demand to be treated, that's not going to wash. You'll get your turn, just like you told us. This is not about him or me. This is about vagrants. This is about drug addicts to come to Paterson. I think the young lady said $3 a bag. She's wrong. It's 2 for $5 in the city of Paterson. We have vagrants at the APT site. We have vagrants that's on the street. We had vagrants in Luke Costello where we were spending, was it $1 million or $1.5 million? We have where they're now fencing in the police station to keep vagrants off of their properties. Mary Gardner, the health center, they're spending $60,000 to fence them out. Yes, we're mad. Yes, we're angry. And yes, we deserve to be able to speak and not be threatened with removal. Because I want to tell you something, Council. City Council, don't remove me. Planning Board, don't remove me. There's nowhere in this city where they remove me when I got something to say. And I want the same respect that you want from me when you deal with us as a public. And never make that mistake again. Never make that mistake again. This is Paterson. We live here. A lot of y'all go other places to live. And your comfortable homes with no vagrants, no addicts. We live here. We fight for this every day. I'm on the streets every day. Every day. I don't get paid for it. But when we're disrespected as a public, partner, you got a problem on your hands. David Sue may irritate you, but I dislike what you said to him as well. You don't have the right to talk to the public any way you choose to talk to us or dictate. The reason why we're here today is the concern, the enormous concern that we are facing on a day-to-day basis. Our parks are overrun with addicts. We cleaned up the health center on Broadway, 2 full bags of feces. We put 3 bottles of bleach on the wall, and the urine outsmelled the bleach. This is every day in Paterson. Every day in this town. But see, when people don't have a vested interest, they can say anything they want to say. And they can try to dictate to people like me, which is a bad idea. My name is Ernest Ruck, and I just approved that message. Now go and speak.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Bland, and I've been here, and I just want to say what I got to say. I live on Broadway, okay? Everything that Mr. Rucker just said, I ride by, I walk out of my house, and I see people, and I don't know if this gentleman is aware, but these are people that left Greystone, because I question them. I come out, boots on the ground, and tell them to get away from here with that. They're shooting heroin, they're doing whatever they want to do. So, when I look at the 4 years that I worked in Straight and Narrow from 1996 to 1999, the people that were mandated from DOC, the Department of Corrections, they all AWOL'd, had babies, and still living here. Some of them are in my Jumpstart program. So when I tell you they don't leave, they migrate here, and yes, I know Ms. Flower might not know, but I have a center. For the last 21 years, I run the Jumpstart Community Training Program. It's a nonprofit. But when I tell you that these young people, I have to take them out of the city just so that they can know that this is not the norm, because when I walk out, it almost tricks me. I have almost gotten used to the smell, to the different spin around in the middle of the street, coming from facilities such as the one that this gentleman is trying to do. And I just want to make sure that he knows, I'm asking him the question as well as you guys. Nobody that does not want treatment doesn't have to get treatment when they get ready to leave, because I do referrals. I was a discharge planner for 10 years and still make referrals. If they don't want to stay, they can leave at any hour of the night. And I've seen them AWOL. Once they came here from Atlantic City and all these other counties, when I was in Straight and Narrow and working as a counselor, because I did my 200 hours there for my CADC. And guess what? They would get their hair fixed, realize that they got their good rest, and they were in the streets, in the belly of the beast of Paterson. And guess what? That was in 1996. And I saw it coming. I said, oh my God, now it's worse, because they strung out on the fentanyl. The fentanyl is in the heroin, and it's in the weed and the cocaine, and they love it. The word is, come to Paterson and buy whatever you want. If you come to a facility here, guess what? You can AWOL and get it anyway. So I'm just asking you to consider if you really are for the children, if you really are for the youth. Because sometimes I gotta break down and cry. Why am I still here and on Broadway? Am I nuts? It's terrible. This is not good. People are telling me, Bland, what are you doing? I can't help save people. If the people that live right here are letting more people come here to allow mass destruction, we don't need any programs here. Every program needs to be in the suburbs. Let them stay there, because they can get clean. They can see the wilderness. Here, all they think about is the dope around the corner. So please understand, this is Paterson. This is not Morristown. This is not even Hackensack or Teaneck. Hackensack is here. I went to school there too, and waving all the time at people that's looking 70 years old, that's my age. So please stop it, stop it. We gotta stop at some point and try to save our own. And I don't know how many of you are not from Paterson, but have the decency to understand that we are broken. We are dying. The mental health is here. Fix us first. We don't need any facilities. That's what's killing us. That's driving me crazy. God is keeping me sane. But everybody don't latch on to God like that. But the hurt that I have, and to hurt and watch other children just in Hawthorne, Fairlawn, and these other great townships, they don't have to deal with this. But my kids, and I'm talking about the Paterson kids, because my baby is 33. So my kids are suffering. You don't hear the stories. You don't see them how to imitating the people on Broadway. Some are using already at 14. Get the programs out of here. Get the people out of here. The benefit is he makes money. And he's not even going to make that much because he doesn't take Medicaid. Medicaid is the money, so I hate to tell him that. But he might want to go somewhere where he's taking Medicaid because nobody's coming here with private insurance. Everybody has Medicaid. So stop it, and go to God with it. Ask him to give you the humanity to say no. We're trying to get out what we already got in here. Because these people are not even from Paterson. They come here on our churches, and I'm a black woman, and the church was all we had. Coming from slavery, we had hymns, and we had the churches, and we had ourselves. We have the churches, and now they are using drugs on the steps of the churches. They are tainting the churches with Satan. I wouldn't even curse, and still today won't even curse by a church, not along. So please, we need our community back. Just stop. Just stop everybody coming here with drug this, drug that. Get out what we got. Everything needs to be in the suburbs so that the people need the help can focus on themselves. When they're in Paterson, they can focus on how to get out, and it really stresses them out because they know the drugs are around every corner. Focus on getting that out and keeping every other thing, place, agency, out of here until we can get some control. And I just hope that you all dig deep into your soul. Please, go into your heart. Have some empathy and understand. It could be your child that's suffering and seeing this mess. God bless you, and I hope your thoughts are coming from your heart. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good evening, Board Commissioner, Councilman Alex Mendez. I took the time to come here as a resident of the great city of Paterson to express my concern when it comes to this rehabilitation drug entity that is planning to come into Paterson. And I'm speaking as a resident of the great city of Paterson. But listen, the first question that I have is, the doctors say that when you find the right building, how are you going to say that you find that you have the right building in the city of Paterson, where all you see is seniors that are living around the building? We have a school around the area. We have a senior building that is ready to, it's going to be occupied very soon. So how can you say that you find the right building? We have to be mindful. Look around Paterson. Paterson, we are in the worst condition right now. All you see is people around the corner, in every corner, panhandling because they have drug problem. And that's what we have now. This program, and I will tell you, there's a lot of money in this type of program. There's a lot of money. That's the reason why they're choosing city like Paterson to come here and open those programs. Because what's going to happen is that there's no way that he's going to be able to stop those patients. They will come from any town around the state of New Jersey because it's a program that is open for the entire state. So once those patients come in, at the very next day, you will see them on Broadway, Rosa Park, on any corner, getting high, and that's become our problem. And now we have to use our resources, police, the ambulance, and on and on and on to correct that problem. So the ball is in your court. I do believe that we don't need that program, and I hope you make the right decision tonight. And I came here not to speak as an elected official. I came here to speak as a Patersonian. I have my daughter, she's 17 years old. I'm afraid to allow my daughter to go out and take the bus in the morning. I have to take my daughter because what you see around Paterson. We have so many people from all over the state of New Jersey that they came to Paterson to get rehabilitated. Guess what? At the very next day, you see them right on Broadway and all the different area getting high because it's easy to get access to drug. So what happened with our children? What happened with our senior? So if we're going to fix Paterson, this is not the way that we're going to fix it, and we don't need this program. Thank you. Have a good night, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, if we could have 10 minutes. We need 10 minutes if we can.
We've been up here an hour and a half waiting.
Mr. Rubin.
I have a few questions for the doctor.
Hold on a second, sir. Mr. Rubin, you need to speak to your client? All right. All right. In the meantime.
We just went through without any questions, obviously, that everyone wants to speak, but they're speaking about the application rather than asking questions.
Well, I have questions for the doctor.
They do have the right, Mr. Rubin.
Yeah.
They do have the right.
Could the doctor come up?
Yes. It's best to get the questions out the way now than at the end, so. All right.
All right. We're here 2 hours waiting. Anyway, Council, my name is Michael DePatria. I live at 24 Mill Street.
Hold on a second. Mr. Rubin, I'll give you 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any commissioners, if we need a break, huh? You'll be the next speaker, sir.
Next one?
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Michael DePatria.
Sir, we got to take a 5 minutes break.
Oh, all right. Well, I don't know what's going on.
Check 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, he's gonna know. Yeah, 2 hours they're up here.
to yell at you more. He's still assistant, he's right on that. So you're gonna address why it's time to redevelop? He's gonna bring it up. He's gonna bring it up. I don't think he's gonna get there.
They didn't hear you, Chairman.
Commissioners, you want me?
Mr. Chairman,
Hold on a second, Mr. Rubin. Ermeline, are you ready? Okay, Mr. Rubin.
yes, Mr. Chairman, Doctor, you've worn him out for these last 2 hours, so he'll answer all the questions after, I guess, this whole line of people have asked their questions, and he'll answer everything at the same time.
All right, I'm going to go without him. My name is Michael DePatri. I'm a retired psychologist, 25 years experience. Since the doctor read his resume, I'll read mine. I have a PhD from Montclair State University in behavioral health, and I worked in 3 different hospitals. My questions to him were he described 3 different units of treatment: partial hospital, psych unit, and the partial psych unit and the outpatient clinic, right? Now, he says 7 days was the treatment period. So how could he possibly treat a patient in 7 days with all those 3 modalities? It's impossible. It's impossible. When I started with the hospital in 1990, they would keep the patient for over a month in the psych ward before they referred them to a partial hospital. And after 3 months of that, they would go to outpatient clinic. So they were totally stable. So he's saying it takes 7 days for 3 different modalities of treatment. I never heard of that in my life. Never. The next thing is...
But wait, do you want him to address that first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Doctor?
Oh, he's here? Go ahead. Oh, I didn't know you were here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it takes 7 days for each modality. I'm saying it takes 7 days for detox. The partial care is another 2 to 3 weeks. The IOP is another 6 to 8 weeks. And then the outpatient is another, however that takes.
Doesn't count.
So the detox is 7 days, not the whole treatment.
Well, when I worked for the hospital, the detox was 3 weeks, at least. When I started, it was a month. And they weren't even stable in 3 weeks, believe me. You can't have a total psychotic patient come in and shoot them up with Haldol and expect them to be out in 7 days. It's impossible. Anyway, when do you discern when a patient is fully compensated and ready to return to the...
Okay, so detoxification, and you're right about that. Detoxification, in the 90s, we took about a month. Gradually, that time has decreased, and most of the time, with something like alcohol, we'll do it in 3 to 5 days. With opiates, it's a little bit longer. The insurance companies do 5 to 7 days, and you're right, 7 days is not enough time for anybody to come off heroin and fentanyl.
No.
That's why we have a continuum of care in which they go to a sober living home, and sometimes if they're still having symptoms, they'll still be on a taper. So the treatment is very specific. It works. The problem is not whether this treatment works or not. It's what happens, as I said, 2 weeks after, 1 month, when they go home. That's when the problem, the treatment is good, is that 2 weeks down, 3 weeks down the line, they relapse. And the relapse rates are very high. I mean, I'm not going to come here and say the relapse rates are not very high. They're very high. That's why we try to get a continuum, a spectrum where we can move them from this level to this level to this level. That's the only thing that works. The only other thing that works is to put them in rehab for 6 months or so. but the government or insurance can't pay for. We can't pay for that. So this is the system we use now, and it's a good system for those that, for the few we can help, or for the few we can save. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, actually, it's a terrible system, and there's no more long-term facilities. There's no more, absolutely none. So you're releasing them in a very short amount of time, and they're psychotic, and they're addicted to drugs, and it's a nightmare. It'll never work around here, never work, especially with, like these people said about the falls coming in and all the work around the falls. Do you agree with that?
Look, Doctor, please sit down. There's no...
Why? What do you think? You're up there 2 hours.
Let the man answer the question. Come on, Ruben. Let the man answer the question.
Answer the question. Sit down. Why? I want to know why.
That's your opinion.
Hold on a minute. There was a question asked. Counsel, is there an objection to the question?
He was giving his opinion. It's a fact. I worked in the field 25 years. If I ask you a question about law, is that your opinion?
Yeah, because I know more.
Yeah, right. Well, you're a lot older than me, too. Yeah.
That is the truth.
Yeah. Anyway, before I was rudely interrupted and broke my train of thought, I worked, like I said, partial outpatient, but partial is when they come from the psych ward to get treatment. It's groups all day, individual therapy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm talking about, 5 days a week. Now, when we had to bring them back, when we seen they were decompensating, we had to call the East Orange police, and we had to call the ambulance. Now, whoever was the therapist had to call them, right? So when they knew we were calling them to go back into the unit, to the psych ward, they would take off. And these guys were like the front line of the Philadelphia Eagles, man. I mean, it took like every guy there to try to tackle them down. It was unbelievable. So what safety do you have? Do you have armed guards? Do you have towers? They take off. You can't do nothing about that. You can't do nothing, unless you tackle them down. And do you have a staff of social workers? Because placement is through the social workers. So I know that a lot of people that are discharged don't get placed. A lot. Probably more aren't placed than do. Am I right or wrong? Yeah. I'm right. Okay. Very good. Stop banning.
Yes, Princess Reeves, residents of the city of Paterson. I too live across from 13 and a half Van Houten Street. I'm at 14. And just like the several young people that came before us, they gave you the history of what was surrounded. I don't know if you guys was aware of it, but you was lied to, because you asked the question about the security. First he said 2. Then after Mr. Vega, Commissioner Vega, you asked the question. And then after such time, he decided, I'm gonna come up with 8. So he's not consistent with his research. Matter of fact, he didn't do his research because he didn't even know that Oasis was 3 blocks from where they wanna put this facility. We no longer can allow this type of program to put our children and our seniors in harm's way. We cannot do it. We have senior buildings. There's a big one here on Ellison Street. There's another one that's on Van Houten. So how is it that somebody is not making decisions when they come with these put together contracts and want our city to make an approval when they got larger townships? Morris County, come on now. You got more than enough of money that's flowing in and out, but you decide that you want to take here and infect our township. Paterson have had enough. I wasn't born here. I was raised here since 1962. My parents, my mother an educator, my dad a military. I follow her rules. I come from a very large family, and we all grew up and learned things the correct way here in the city of Paterson. We can no longer, and I mean no longer, put our residents, our constituents in harm's way. Okay, we cannot do it. So until this gentleman come up with like a serious plan as security, how he's gonna secure that building that he's thinking about getting past, and them children, okay, what are they gonna tell those parents when that child comes up missing or totally killed because they decide that, okay, he said that they're going to have a security system. Now, we know for a fact that some of our best buildings had a security failure. So why should we go by what he's saying? Because he is contradicting himself. If you listen to his repeated history and his repeated not even knowing the answer to your question, something is totally wrong. But I'm telling you, as a mother of 5, grandmother of 13, I will not allow it. Twins run through the family, so yes. I was from a family of 17. My mother had so many twins, and I'm the middle child. So yes, I catch hell from both sides, the older and the younger. But I'm here because I'm not going to sit back and be quiet, and I'm not going to sit back and get a deaf ear when in fact that you guys have the history. He was not prepared. All they see is money. Okay? They don't care what they do to our town, but they want to make their money off our backs. So I leave you with that question. As you search your heart, let's make the right decision. Thank you, and you guys have a wonderful evening.
Yes, my name is Robert Tyler. I live at 24 Mill Street, I guess less than 100 feet from the proposed site. And my question is, why Paterson? Why Paterson when Totowa only has one drug treatment center? It's just right over the line there. Why Paterson when Wayne has 6? Fairlawn 2. Clifton 7. Newark, oh, you might think Newark would need some help. Newark only has 4. And then I said, I'm gonna go for all the marbles. I'm gonna look at New York City with a population of 8.8 million. They only have 8. That'd be a great place to go. Paterson, hold please. Paterson has a population of 147,000. And we're talking about building our 36th DTC when New York has 8.8 million people and they only have 8 drug treatment centers. That'd be a great place to go. Totowa 1, Paterson 35, Clifton 7, Fairlawn 2. How are we going to be made better with our 36 drug treatment center? At this rate, in 5 years, what are we, 50? 10 years, 100? No. So I would like that question. If you did your due diligence and research, sir, why is Totowa and all these other areas I mentioned not feasible for you, but Paterson was? That's my question.
Thank you very much. All right. In answer to your question, like I said, when we look for a place to put one of our facilities, we look for the right building first. We don't go and say, well, we want to put something in Totowa. It's too difficult to do that, to pick a city. So we look for the right city first, the right building first. When we find the right building, then we think, is this feasible? The question is, why Paterson? Why would we want to put a facility like this in Paterson. It's difficult, and I'll be very frank with you. Paterson is one of the more difficult places to put a facility like this. The building is right. It's a good building. It's got good bones and all that stuff, and it can take up facilities. Most people will run away from doing this. That's the truth. Most people will run away from doing this, but we don't. And the other lady that spoke is also right. When I started doing the research, one of the things that occurred to me was that I saw the amount of drugs that were within the facility itself. And that in itself gave me pause, and I thought, oh, this is a problem. How can you have a facility in a place where, drugs are so easily accessible and things like that? But the truth of the matter is that what I realized once we got into this is that it's really not feasible to have a facility like that in the midst of all those drugs. It's just not. And so one of the things we've been talking about we will have to do is to work with the community to develop drug-free zones. We cannot afford to have a facility like this in the midst of all those drugs. That's the truth. Somebody somewhere, some tech somewhere that wants to make some money will bring it. But it's not totally impossible to have a drug-free zone, to work with it. Yes, it's a substance abuse facility, so we have some discretionary money we always spend in the community, whatever community we go to contribute to the community we do. So if it's Bridgewater, if it's Wayne, we have discretionary things we do for the community. And I was thinking to myself, well, the problem is here. Whether we put a facility or not, the problem is here. The only solution to the problem, from the way I see it, is to start putting good businesses there. Yes, there's substance abuse facilities that will bring in substance abusers and put them on the streets, but there's some that are not. So you have to look and see, is this one of those that will or will not? Do we have facilities in inner cities where we just go in there and we put substance abusers on the street? Or do we have facilities all over in rural areas where we protect those areas? So what we were working towards is, let's get like a 5-mile zone around the Great Falls area, and let's work with the local police, let's work with the local community, let's invest some of those funds in there to develop drug-free zones. The only way the problem is going to get better is to let good businesses in. If you don't let good businesses in, the problem is not going to get better. Those buildings are unoccupied. The homeless are not going to avoid them. If you look at this as a business, not as a drug place, but if you look at that business, if you can bring some of a business like ours into that area, and we can work together to make it a drug-free zone, we can invest some of that capital into the community for once. And I spoke to one or two people that said, are you guys willing to do that? And I said, we are, because we as a facility cannot afford to do that. And try to do that, then we can start with a zone where we can all say, okay, the problem is big, but we have this Great Falls zone that we've drawn a 5-mile radius around that is drug-free, that we're working with the drug-free. We're working with this facility, and we're going to deem it as such. If you have that, then you would have a situation where other medical facilities can come in. Medical is the fastest growing. If you want to build a community, you've got to do it with medical. That's the bottom line. In those days, it used to be manufacturing. That's why the Great Falls was manufacturing. But now it's medical. So you've got to let medical in. We are probably the first group that would come in. That's the fact. But we're not the type of substance abuse that we have 250 people. We only have 38. And it's a locked unit, and we have facilities in other areas. So my proposal to the people I met is, let's bring in the business, let's work together to make a drug-free zone, and let's start from that. The publicity around about making a drug-free zone can only benefit Paterson. The status quo now is not working. I mean, as they told me, they're homeless in the building itself. So us coming to the building cannot make it worse. There's no way we can make it worse. But if what we're saying is right, and if you look at our other facilities that we have, we don't have substance abuse around our facilities. We don't have people walking on the street. So it's a business. So if there's going to be a solution, it's probably a business like ours that's going to do it. So you've got to look at it and look at the difference. Is there a difference between us with our 38 beds, or are we the same as some 200 facility that is just bringing in people? We're not that. Do the research. But if we can come in here and start to make a difference, that's probably the one thing that would help Paterson. So the one thing that might help Paterson is what you're trying to drive away. That's what I'm saying.
Doctor, would you mind coming back to the microphone? I just have a question for you regarding your comment, which you just said. You were saying that to let good businesses in, and I'm looking at your reviews. You have between two different facilities, you have a total of about 2.5 review scale on Yelp, most of them with complaints. So if you're asking to let good business in, what is our assurance that something like this is not going to occur in Paterson? Because right now you have a 2-star rating on your Bridgewater location and a 2.5 in your Livingston. So I mean and there's a lot of hidden reviews. This is something that I do on a daily basis for my company. So I know what these reviews look like, and I know how much they weigh. So I want to know what your plan is if you're asking for good businesses to be let in, and you're saying that yours is a good business. So why these kind of reviews?
Yeah, I'll answer that. Mental health, substance abuse is a difficult one with reviews. So if you look at other facilities like us, it's all the same. We're not like a restaurant or hotel where people go in, they eat good food, they get good reviews. Most of the people that go in there, we treat thousands of people. If you look at the review, you'll see 12 or 13 or something like that. Those are the 13 people that are absolutely mad at you. So I'm not saying that the reviews are 4+, but I'm saying that generally mental health facilities like ours, if you look at the competitors and all that with the different sites, there are different reviews for different sites. So you can do one and see 2, you can do one, you see 4. There are like that, but it is what it is. It doesn't mean we don't do good work. Like I said, people vote with their feet. The only way you can know whether you're doing good work is not with the people that are angry at you, because you're always going to have that in our field. There's no way not to have that. Is the people that keep coming back and the people that keep sending their family members and their kids and bringing them back. That's what you know. And the way you know that we have that is, the only way you know that is rate of growth. If a hotel chain, a restaurant is good, people will come, they'll build more. If it's not good, people won't come, they won't. So the only way to know we are doing good is the rate in which we are growing. We are growing pretty fast. Like I said, during COVID, we opened 2 facilities. We're opening another 2. This year, another 2. And they're not all in Paterson or in places like Paterson. They're all over. So the question is, why not Paterson? I mean, why would we want to avoid Paterson? Why would we discriminate? I'm not somebody that would discriminate against places. I guess that's why I'm the type of person you're going to see here. The people that do that, you probably will not see them here. So that's what I'm saying.
Hello, my name is Tamara Rivera Lugo, and I've been in this community over 30 years, raising 10 children. I now have 4 grandchildren as well. I work at school number 2 for over 30 years. We have 500 students right now, and almost half of them are autism or have special needs. It's very hard for us to protect our children when we have all these different resources in our neighborhood as it is. And most of them are nonprofit, so in a way it's good because, we do need the help. But for a company who's gonna be for profit, who only takes private insurance, somebody has to work to get that private insurance. So if the person happens to be the one that was working, he's gonna lose his insurance, because how long he's gonna be under this plan that they have for getting him off the drugs or the mental health. They're gonna eventually lose their job, and then they're gonna take them, because I think I heard him say that the exit plan is, if they don't have a home to go to, they'll take them back to the emergency room. So then the emergency room is gonna release them into our streets. Right? Okay, the other thing is, you didn't do your research because you don't know how many schools we have in our neighborhood. I've counted almost 7 already, including mine. We have preschools, we have daycare centers. The Oasis program, very generous. They have after-school programs for our children. And we already live under lock and key in our community because our children cannot go out to play in the park without us. And if we go, we have to be careful where they're stepping on, what they touched, or, it's really dangerous. So to have another place where you say that after 7 days, they become outpatient, so then you have 38 rooms, and in 7 days, you release them. They're gonna come back 5 days a week for outpatient care. So then now you have another 38 for the following week. It adds up to 114 in 1 month. 114 outpatients, but you're still taking inpatients. Like, it's never gonna end. And when your insurance is private and it's so good, you're gonna keep them so you can keep charging them. I think that's very terrible. You're not really helping our community at all. Okay, you say you're going to transport the outpatients. Are you going to, wait a minute, you say you were going to transport the inpatients, but what happens to the outpatients? Those 5 days a week, are you going to go pick them up, Uber them back and forth, and make sure that they stay in their community? You're going to watch them 24 hours a day? I don't think so. This is not working out. Thank you.
Yeah, so like I said, this is not an outpatient center. It's an inpatient center. We have other sites that are outpatient centers. So over here, we have 38 beds. When we talk about sending them to outpatient centers, they're not coming back here. They're going to other outpatient centers that we have. So outpatient centers are outpatient centers. With outpatient centers, we don't have any beds. People do not stay there. With inpatient centers like this, people stay there for 5 to 7 days on average, some longer, but once we transport them, we transport them. Something else to answer that is important is emergency room. When I say we send them to emergency room, generally speaking, we send them to emergency room that they came from. And we do that all the time. We transport them either home to to a group home or to an emergency where they came from. So we're not going to put them in a local emergency room. As I said, if you have somebody that doesn't do this at all, then you can say, oh, gee whiz, why are you doing this and all that stuff? But we do this in several places, and you can look at the records. We don't have people on the streets where we do it. And then when you said we don't help the people, we're the people that help the people. We are those that treat. Yes, I would admit that the success rate with substance abuse is still very poor. The substance rate is poor not because of the treatment. The treatment is very good. The success rate is poor because of the other things that follow the treatment. So when we treat them and then the support that surrounds them becomes very, very poor. That's really what causes it. So if you're in a situation where you still have support, we work very hard.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but we still got more questions. Let her ask her questions.
Okay, now you're saying that you're going to have retired police officers that are going to be in your location to be the security, but then if somebody breaks out, you have to call the police and an ambulance, and then they're going to take them to the nearest hospital because they're not going to take them to one of your locations. You also said that when they're in the emergency room, people are going to be looking out for the right client. So the ones that have the most money, the best insurance, and they're not from Paterson. We're single, I'm a single parent. And if I stop working or if I have a drug habit and I have to be in an institution, guess what? My 10 children and my 4 grandchildren, what are they gonna do? What are you gonna do for them? And I'm gonna lose the insurance because no job is gonna be paying for somebody who has a drug addiction. Mental health maybe, but not drug addiction.
I mean, there are problems, as I said, there are problems with substance abuse, but you can't, the treatment there is not the problem. The treatment is the only thing that helps. So rejecting the treatment doesn't help the substance abuse problem. The treatment that we preserve here in New Jersey is probably one of the best in the world. I mean, it's one of the best in the country. New Jersey is much more advanced, along with 1 or 2 other states with treatment. The treatment is very good. So rejecting the treatment doesn't solve the problem.
We understand. So next question.
Hello, my name is Anthony Scally, S-C-A-L-L-Y, I've lived in this neighborhood for 37 years. I want to speak to what I find the most insane component of their plan, which is delivering meals to this facility. There is no place to pick up and drop off there. There's absolutely no room. Traffic there is already insane. Excuse me. I can speak to this personally because 18 months ago, my wife was run over in front of 24 Mill Street. And the city has done nothing to remediate the problems that pedestrians have in this neighborhood. This will make it much worse. The traffic alone, they did not do their homework. There's no way for them to get in and out of that building. There's no way for them to deliver patients, pick up patients. And then when I heard their insane idea of having meals brought in 3 times a day, that in itself should quash this project immediately. I'd also like you to know that I'm also not only a resident there, but I'm president of the local 16248 American Federation of Musicians, AFL-CIO. We have our headquarters in this neighborhood at 77 Prospect Street. We've been there since 1930. We're the largest local in New Jersey. We represent over 700 musicians. We administer a budget of over $15 million a year. And we're about to leave. And you know why we're about to leave Paterson after 90 years? Because our building manager is tired of having to move junkies from the front of our building every morning and from the back of our building. And he's tired of having to clean up human waste every other day. And that's what you're bringing more into the neighborhood with this project. But the traffic alone should make you consider this a resounding no.
I'm Michael Sherman. I live at 24 Mill Street, and I've been there for about 8 years or so. And one of the things that is insane about the traffic problem is they close down McBride for every issue up there on the, they close it for the Labor Day, they close it for the Memorial Day, they close it for any other type of issue that's going on up there. And to have that whole thing, when it gets closed, McBride Extension, Mill Street is not moving. It doesn't move. Mill Street is just one parking lot. There's no way to get vehicles in. Never mind find parking, never mind find a drop-off. There's no way to get into that area because of the events that are going on locally. But also another major problem is a rehab doesn't filter out the problem of our neighborhood. Our neighborhood has a lot of people that got stuck in a system that dropped them off without an exit plan, quote unquote. And we need to filter those people out. We don't need to bring more people in. We need to have a real filter that can assist this population and to help them to move out. Having another rehab to bring people in is just throwing gasoline on the problem. And it's already very hot. You can see by the number of people that have shown up here. I hope it doesn't go.
Hello, my name is Jeff Pines, P-I-N-E-S, 24 Mill Street. There's a lot of good people in this neighborhood, and we all, our hearts go out to people who have mental illness. There's no question about that. The doctor stated that unfortunately, people often associate mental illness with criminality, and of course that's very unfair, but I do have one question I'd like you to answer when I'm finished. Will any of are your clients screened for having had a criminal record in the past? And if so, are they exempt from your program? I also have some sympathy for the owner of the building. It's a big, beautiful building, and I understand that it's impossible to rent out to anything but a state agency or something like this. The reason that it's impossible to rent out is because the neighborhood is saturated with junkies and bums and vagrants. To the owner of the building, I would suggest, rather than have a desperation move like this, put some pressure on the city council and the administration and the criminal justice system to clear out the junkies and bums and vagrants, and then you'll be able to get better tenants. This neighborhood cannot support this. I understand that there's 35 other facilities in the neighborhood. That kind of tells me that they're really not very successful. When these people are released, or if they walk out against medical advice, the doctor stated that you're not allowed to just put them on the street or let them go out on the street, because you are liable if something happens to them. I would suggest that you're also liable if something happens to us. My apartment windows are 50 feet from your building. Adjacent to the parking lot, where I park is adjacent to your building. Cars are broken into all the time by our local junkies. Now, our local junkies weren't all local. There was a needle exchange program which brought in junkies and bums and vagrants from far and wide. Sometimes you see in the paper when there's a large drug bust of street drugs, and you see the addresses of these people. You see Atlantic City, you see Philadelphia, you see Cape May County. We are importing drug addicts here. Those of you who follow the science of space exploration, I guarantee if they find junkies and bums and vagrants on Mars, they'll be bringing them to Paterson. We can't have this. We can't have this. The doctor also said that there will be 2 security guards at all times. I appreciate that. They're in your building. Will you also take on the added expense of having another 2 security guards for outside of your building? Because that's where our problems start, outside of your building. Okay? Thank you.
Good evening, Congress members and commissioners. My name is Shonda Wallace. I live in 24 Mill Street, and I've been living there for 30 years now. I came into this meeting initially thinking that this was going to be an outpatient facility. And then when I sat down and I heard the gentleman talking, he started talking about the number of beds and inpatient, and the more he talked, the more it just sounded like just a nightmare. So, and then, you know, he got up and he spoke a few times and he says, if you don't do this for a living and don't pay attention to the reviews and look at it as a business, and the way he's speaking to us as a community, to me, is very insulting, because I am a therapist. I worked in 3 psychiatric facilities. I have a relative with schizoaffective disorder and a relative with schizophrenia. So I'm extremely knowledgeable about psychosis and about mental illness. And I can tell you, no, there is not a high statistical correlation between criminality and mental illness, but there is a high empirical statistical correlation between drug rehabilitation, mental illness. So, I mean, he's talking, and criminality. So those 3 combined, there is, and when he came in here, what's even more insulting is that he keeps telling us to do our homework. And she had to do homework and look at the reviews. I'm insulted because I heard about this, just like the other building that's across the street from us. Why did they come in here with like pamphlets? Did they come in here with statistical data, like of the recidivism rate or the success rate? The number, as Jeff said, the number of people that have criminal records? We didn't get anything. So they should have came in here and they should have provided us with some information, some resources, so we can look at this stuff, take it home, research it, and then we can come in here and instead of, I mean, a lot of people are speaking from passion because they have nothing else to work with. So they should have came in here and they should have gave us some actual substantial, something tangible that we can look at, because I'm a researcher and I'm also a clinician. And it's insulting to me. And I don't want him to answer my question because he keeps saying the same thing over and over again. It's insulting. And don't tell me to do my research. Don't tell me, I don't want to go on the internet and look at your Yelp views. You should have came in here with some pamphlets, with some numbers, with a success rate, with the recidivism rate. You should have came in here prepared. And then he keeps talking about the building, the building, the building, the building. But he's not talking about the community. Like when he did his research from the perspective of the beds, the building. He did his research from the perspective of what's inside. But he didn't do his research from the perspective of the children, the parking, everything that every tenant here mentioned. And I'm not going to go on and on and on with this, and I really don't want him to reply. I hope he doesn't get up and reply. The last thing I want to say is I was living here for 30 years, and we had a neighbor, and I'm getting emotional. She was raped. She no longer lives in our building, and the person that she was raped by was on drugs. And I'm just going to end it with that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Johnson, and I do reside at 24 Mill Street. I am the first artist to move in 24 Mill Street. I am an ex-performer from Inner City Ensemble, and that was one of the reasons why we have an artist complex. I want to just talk about what the doctor has said about doing research and what Shonda just mentioned about research. And if he really did do his due diligence as far as looking at buildings and so forth, we have on Broadway the unemployment facility that's been vacant for a while. We also know that in that particular area, there are a lot of vagrants there, a lot of trash. They fixed the facility so that there's a podiatry and also a laundromat. But the other part of the building is still vacant. Now, that would be an excellent place if he was doing his due diligence and looking at buildings and areas. We have St. Paul that's on the corner that contributes and helps the drug addicts because they can sit on their steps and they can do their drugs right out in the open, and his facility would be perfect, right there. As a person that grew up in Paterson, I went to school 10. I've been here for over 60 years, and I have performed in Paterson and all over the United States. And I can attest to this, that this is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea to put a drug facility, rehab facility, or whatever you want to call it, in a residential area that is not even 100 feet away from where I live. And I do work for the Paterson school system. I work in the belly where we see this all the time. As a matter of fact, there was a shooting near our school, and it hit one of the classrooms. All right? We don't need any more facilities. We have 35. If 35 facilities that we have in Paterson has not made Paterson better, his idea is just not going to work. And like I said, if he did his due diligence, we have a vagrant building, the unemployment office that is still there. The junkies go there, they shoot up there, then they put their garbage in the back, and it's a constant. It's in the 4th Ward. How about that? If he did his due diligence and looking for a place where he can put 20 beds, 30 beds, 40 beds, that would have been ideal, but not in our residence, not where we have the Great Falls and we're trying to beautify Paterson. We don't need it. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Anna Karina Sinoki.
SINOCCHI. I do have a question for the doctor. I kept on hearing the doctor say tonight, in Paterson, we have to find the right building, we have to have the right building, we have to have the right building. So he feels, right, through his good judgment, that the Franklin Mill is a good building. Can you please inform to us why the Franklin Mill is a good building to house your facility?
So in doing the research, I'm not really looking, as I said, we're not really looking at the town itself. We're looking to see buildings that meet our needs. The Franklin Mills building is a building that was built a long time ago, and it's really got good bones. You guys all know that. It's 3 floors. It's about 8,000 square feet per floor. The 3rd floor is really pretty tall and majestic. It's really very nice. So it's the type of building that I personally like to use because we can bring it back. We can build 2 floors that are really very nice, and then the 3rd one with the high ceilings for that. So when I'm looking for a building, I'm not thinking, okay, there's some places we're not going to go to. I'm not going to Paterson, I'm not going to that, I'm only going to this place or not. No, I look at the building, I look at the place, and then we don't discriminate against the place. I don't discriminate against the place. If it's Paterson, then it's Paterson, let's do it. That's always been my philosophy. Like I said, you might not see other substances like that because they're looking for a certain population, they're looking for a certain dynamic, and they're worried. I don't worry about things. A lot of people worry and think, oh, gee, I'm bringing them their drugs, what they do. Problems are there to be solved. If we come in there and there's a problem, we'll work with you guys to solve. There's a problem with drugs and there's a problem with homelessness. So we'll work with, hold on, let me finish. So we'll work with the community to solve those problems.
But you agree that it's an aesthetically pleasing building. It is. It has great bones. It was built in the late 1800s, and it's been gentrified in 1982, right? I cannot help, counsel, but think in my active imagination that this is a great selling point for his facility. I can just picture his brochure to send to his middle-class patients with private insurance. Come, look at this beautiful building. It's a bit bucolic. It's tree-lined. It even has grass in the front yard. It is 1 block up from the historic falls where you can come and you can get treatment and you can rest, okay? But here's the problem. 50 feet across the parking lot, you have a 70-unit residential building that has children. You've also mentioned that you may have to, and I could be wrong, you've talked about the windows, securing the windows. If you have to secure the windows and have security and or call the police, that is a risk. I am sorry, okay? We also have Hinchcliffe Stadium that's being built. We already have 40,000 visitors a year that come to this tourist, historical, gentrified, bucolic neighborhood, okay? Also, across from the Franklin Mill, if you have not seen the plan, parking lot 15 is now going to be reconstructed into a massive, a couple hundred units, I could be wrong, senior center, okay? Now I'm going to support Tony in his statement about traffic. You talk about having 25 professionals coming in and out of your facilities. Yes, granted, in front of the Franklin Mill, you may have just about 15 parking lots there, but I think some of them are even occupied by through permits, they're occupied by our residents, because we have some residents that are handicapped that have to use that private, small parking lot. So here's a question. Tony is right. You don't have a facility to cook, so you're expecting 3 meals a day to be delivered. Do you know, counsel, that my windows face Mill Street, and from 6 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night, we have tractor trailers, we have the United States Postal Service. You know where they stop? They stop on Mill Street, on the right-hand side,
right? And the right hand, and sometimes they'll go up on the side. When you're on the right-hand side, that's a turn-only lane. Do you know how many horns are honking? Then you have Amazon comes by, and you've got, hold on a second, you have the handicapped who do live in our buildings, we have a few in wheelchairs, who have to be transported in shuttles that have the wheelchair elevator that they have to stop in the street. And here's one last thing for the doctor. You're talking about you want good business. I got two things to say. You want good business? I have a suggestion. I'm a professor at Passaic County Community College. Know what would make great business for the Franklin Mill? The college, education. Right, unfortunately, I want to go to Professor Rose. Unfortunately, for the college, we are down 50% of student body. We had 10,000 students. In 2009, we're down to 5,000 students. It's the president's job to purchase buildings for education. If he can't purchase, he can rent. They can use it for continuing education. They can use it for just administrative buildings, okay? We have the fine art, the Performing of Fine Arts, which is looking for expansion, right, that program. And sir, if you're talking also about business, I understand some people don't want a 36 drug facility being built here, but if you must build in Paterson, I have a great location to suggest to you, your financiers, and bring along your architect and your interior design. If you want to do business, then I suggest go to the business district in Paterson. We have about 200 acres. It is called, I just lost it. It's Bunker Hill, thank you, which has businesses, small businesses, large businesses, and manufacturing facilities there. The streets are wide. It is clean. It is easy to transport, especially from the hospital to there. It's off the beaten path. You're not in a residential section, an historic section, and a tourist section with schools and children within 100 feet of you. So if you must, again, I am one of these people who are not against mental health or drug rehabilitation, but go to the business district. It's about 200 acres, and I'm sure there are plenty of buildings, good buildings, buildings that you need with 3 floors, 4 floors, 6 floors, where you can reconstruct to meet your service needs. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Dennis Marshall, and I live at the Phoenix Mill, 34 Van Houten Street. First of all, I'll back up what my neighbor Tony said. The traffic has gotten worse. I've been in my current apartment. I've been there for 37 years. I've been in my current apartment at the front of the building for 20 years. The traffic is atrocious, and it is a speedway. The cops do nothing. People fly down that street. I was coming in from getting water at JF Kennedy High School last week, and a Mercedes-Benz at 11 o'clock in the morning was going down Van Houten at 50 miles an hour plus. That's number one. Number two, the good doctor here talks about that building being perfect for the use for a mental health rehab center. Well, I got news for you. The reason they couldn't rent it was because of COVID. That building, that facility does not belong there. There are families, as Karen pointed out, Sonochi, with young kids in the Essex Mill, 50 yards. There are families in the Cogden building, down the street, and in the Phoenix Mill. And also using that building for a drug rehab center does not fit in with the nature of the historic district. It's not going to help draw people to that area. What that area needs right now is a community center. And it needs a place for the artists. That's not the right place to put a drug rehab center. There's no parking, and the traffic has gotten worse. And by the way, I don't know, I guess you all live in Paterson, but if you come down during the rush hour, everybody blocks the intersection at the bottom of Mill Street and McBride Avenue. They are constantly, I'm surprised there haven't been more accidents. And as my neighbors have pointed out, there are plenty of other good buildings that they can choose for this facility. And in terms of security, I just want to point out that there have been, even with the security in the Essex and Phoenix Mills, there have been drug addicts that have broken into those buildings. We had a neighbor that found drug paraphernalia in the wooden section of the Essex Mill. We had a homeless person about a year ago got into the Essex Mill, and then when he was chased out of there, he went to the Phoenix Mill, where he was defecating in empty boxes. So although the good doctor can talk about security all he wants, nothing is fail-safe. This building is this is the wrong application for that building. Dyfus is there for 25 years. You can't tell me you cannot get somebody to rent that building? Come on now. Stop selling snow in July. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know how much longer you would want to keep the meeting. I know in past applications, as I recall, either this board or the other board wanted to end at 10:30. I don't know if you still use that as a end. In any case, I have 3 more witnesses, and Mr. Sue has advised that he has some remarks to make, as well as several witnesses of his own to present. So it might seem appropriate to fix another date that might be available to have us move forward with these presentations.
Before we do that, Council, I think, because if we're going to come back another date, I think there's a couple issues that we need to address at that next date. So if, is Mr. Evans your only professional? I don't want to go. Who are your experts?
The three additional witnesses would be Mr. Abrams, which is representing the owner. He is one of the owners.
Right, I have a couple questions for him, but for right now, who else you have?
Mr. Evans, our architect, and Mr. Corker, who is our professional planner.
All right. So with regard to the Oasis House and where it falls in, who would address that for the next meeting? We're gonna need a survey or some sort of...
I think Mr. Evans' office could handle that. He is here, and I think his office could handle...
He's not licensed to do that, sir.
He has facilities in his...
He's not licensed to measure, to locate.
Excuse me?
He is not licensed to locate the adjoining buildings.
Well, it's really not brain surgery. I could to tell which one. I guess you go from front door to front door, if that's the.
That's a surveyor's job, Mr. Rubin. I'm on the State Board of Professional Engineers and Land Surveyors, and I'm sure Mr. Evans knows the codes for the architects as well as for the engineers and surveyors, and he is not licensed to do that. So his work...
well, we could get a surveyor from his company to give that.
That's fine.
If that becomes an issue, if you would like it to be an issue, we'll do that. We weren't aware of that before this evening. So, and I would like to get a copy of the report that you say was sent out for that's made mention of the Oasis or some other facility. I'm not aware of that. So if you could send that to me, appreciate it. And I assume we can get a LS from Mr. Evans' office to give us a figure as to front door to front door. 'Cause we'll have to figure that out. And we'll do that. Was there any other issue that wanted us to be aware of?
If we could briefly, just so we're clear next time, I don't want to waste your time for next time, if we could bring the owner of the property up for a moment. I'm going to give you my copy of the report before we leave. If we could bring the owner up, just a couple questions as to the lease.
Yes, Mr. Abrams?
Oh, okay. You have, okay. Okay.
Jeffrey Abrams, Rockaway, New Jersey. Rockaway?
And Mr. Rubin, I didn't realize we have another objector who has questions. Mr. Sue has questions of the doctor. Before we end, we'll let him ask the questions of the doctor. But Mr. Abrams, the facility, well, I should say, the entity that owns the property is Franklin Mill Associates LLC?
Yes,
Okay. And Franklin Mills is renting the property to the applicant?
yes.
Okay. And is there gonna be any other, well, you have a lease here for, what, 57 units?
107 parking spaces.
107.
There's 57 in the lot on McBride Avenue Extension above the building, and 50 in the lot on Mill Street and Ellison.
And do I have both of that, both of
Yeah.
those here?
Yep.
Okay. And who else is utilizing those spots?
At the present time, we are not, as the building is vacant, we spoke to the parking authority. The lot that's on Mill Street between Ellison and School 2 is being used by the parking authority. And we have the lot above, which we're continuing to pay rent on, but nobody is using it from our property. The building's empty.
So, but if this matter was to be approved,
Yep,
those parking spaces would be solely allocated to your use?
yes,
And the lease goes through 2024, is that correct?
correct.
And there is no further extensions in this lease,
In that-
correct?
Not in that document, no.
All right, so you would have about 2 years left, and then there wouldn't be spaces, is that correct?
Unless we extend the lease, correct.
But there's no extension provided right now? You don't have another option, is what I'm asking you?
Correct.
Okay. And you would assign your lease, your parking spaces to this applicant, correct?
Yes.
And I mean, I looked at the lease quickly, but you have the authority to assign it to them, is that correct?
Yeah, the lease is for the use of the tenants of the building.
All right, okay. I'm gonna give you this back. Well, you said this is an extra copy?
It's just a photocopy.
So we'll put this into the file this evening, Mr. Rubin. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, we'll put it in, yeah. All right, and then what? Can I see it? Sure.
Mr. Chairman, it looks a little more extensive than I could digest.
So what I'm gonna suggest is I just wanted to get, because we're gonna come back, I wanted to make sure I had a grasp on it. What I'm gonna ask is Mr. Rubin to provide you, and if any of the other objectors want to see a copy beforehand, it will be in the file in City Hall.
Actually, if I could, Mr. Moraga, it was one of the issues that I wanted to speak to earlier was regarding the checklist for completeness of this application.
Okay.
And one of the items on the checklist includes the agreements and potential approvals that the proposal would need to secure. And despite the fact that the checklist is marked that those materials are in the file, I did not find them in the file.
They were not there.
They were not there. So, if this were an application just like a parking lot or something like an addition on the house, I don't know that that would be as relevant. But since this is a facility that requires state licensing, there are licensing of the personnel in it. There is a criteria here where when they, the state licensing, where when they seek approval from the city, at the first point they seek approval, they're supposed to notify D1 criteria, under inherently beneficial, or a D6 or height would be a totally different criteria. So not knowing what they're really doing in terms of what variances they're seeking, what their exact hardship is, I can't really prepare properly. I'm conjecturing to do the best I can, but I'm left at a great disadvantage.
So, Mr. Sue, with regard to the hardship, they're going to put that on with their application, but with regard,
This is a use variance
Well-
of an inherently beneficial use.
I'm going to refute that.
Hardship is not.
I understand that, so you're going to have the opportunity to address it, but with regard to the checklist and any other documentation, I'm going to defer to you if there's anything else that is in fact.
Mr. Sue wants to play lawyer, let him play lawyer. But in the final analysis.
Mr. Chairman, I object to that disparagement. I have not disparaged Mr. Rubin.
This is an inherently beneficial use. This whole thing is what we call a NIMBY application, not in my backyard. A great application, put it somewhere else.
But is there any other documents other than the lease that are not in the city file that should be there based on the checklist? Is basically his concern and question.
Cindy, and now it's part of the application, it's table evidence, and whoever wants to look at it, can go to City Hall, look at it. Or wherever one finds the files of, Board of Adjustment.
Okay, well, if I may, Mr. Chairman, through the chair to Mr. Baraka, Counselor, I believe this facility as a detox has got to be licensed under Title 10, Human Services, Chapter 16, 161A, Standards for Licensure of Residential Substance Use Disorder Treatment Facilities, in Subchapter 2, licensing procedure for enforcement. We talk to some of the things, they have to get straight. And I'll tell you, sir, just looking at this, there's two different categories of detox. Detox can only be inpatient flow after that. And inserting the word rehab into their letter of intent opens the door for this to be outpatient. But our zoning ordinance has a clear definition of clinical inpatient and clinical outpatient. And I just counted, we have dozens, more than almost 20 zones in the city where this use is permitted. So, I still assert strongly, and I have not heard a legal answer or rebuttal with authority, that what I brought up at the beginning of the meeting is not, in fact, relevant and applies to this board. I believe this board, based on the evidence I've produced, has no jurisdiction to hear a use variance of any kind. Bulk variances can only be heard by the planning board in this matter. If they want to do this at this property, they have to go and get the city council to change the redevelopment plan. We have agreements with the National Park Service for notification and involvement with those changes, including this application being presented. There is a substantial amount
finish addressing that. So, Mr. Rubin, I direct this to the owner's attention. Generally, when we're dealing with leases of 2 years, a year, 3 years, we don't really necessarily consider that because, you know, you have the spaces today, what are we doing in 2 years? Generally, the board requires a 20-year lease for the property, or at least a 10 with a 10-year option, you know, or something substantial. I mean, 2 years in essence is saying, all right, we'll be good for 2 years, and in 2 years.
You're right. Well, and having had that before other boards, we know that. And what is kind of interesting in this area is, and I am not very knowledgeable in it, but Mr. Abrams probably is, about the building of a new parking garage in the area. I don't know the details of that, but he will testify because he does know.
And that's fine. I bring that to your attention because,
Yes.
so that next, you know,
That
next
is
meeting,
fine.
you're not,
That is fine. As I said before, this is an inherently beneficial use, and I believe that we have, in the testimony that we've already given, that we have a prima facie case to present, and that we have upheld the criteria. There is no question that there are state licenses, but you cannot go to the state of New Jersey until you have zoning. That means you have to come here first. That is absolute law. I have lived it, I've done it, and I've gone through it before. You have to show that you have zoning, and whatever land use agency, be it a planning board or board of adjustment, that is, if it requires that, that is where you go to first. In any case, if you would, as I said, we have 3 witnesses before, and Dr. Arlambi will be with us again. So if there are any follow-up questions, he'll be here to answer those also.
well, so what we're gonna, since everybody's here tonight, we're gonna have Mr. Sue ask his questions of the document. Also, I just want to be, so we're all on the same page. You're in receipt of the September 23rd, 2021 memorandum from the City of Paterson Historic Preservation Commission as well?
Yes,
And the comments?
we received it this morning, 5 months later. The law says you're supposed to get a decision within 45 days. Someone forgot about 45 days, and we got it in 5 months this morning. Also, the ordinance of the City of Paterson exempts this particular property from what we want to do, but that'll be something that we will discuss later on.
No, I just want, yeah, we can address that. I just want to make sure you're in.
Just got it this morning,
It's the same as myself.
5 months later.
Yeah, same as myself. I just wanted to make sure we're on there.
Through the chair, Mr. Rocca, sir, I did make a number of comments which might have construed his testimony. Perhaps even after the fact, it might be reasonable to have me swear what I said I believe is fact. Would that be reasonable, sir?
It would be reasonable, and then we'll give you the opportunity to ask the questions.
Correct. But I did already say a bunch of stuff. Maybe you can do it right now, real quick.
That's fine. So you got some questions? Go ahead.
For the doctor? Yes. Sir, does your facility in fact require licensure under NJAC 10161A?
Yes, we do.
It does. It does, sir. Have you applied for that license as of yet?
We don't apply for that license until we go for zoning. So the procedure is, zoning. So the procedure is, you find the facility you want, you sign a lease, that you make sure, I'm telling you the procedure. You ask the question. Nope, I'm answering it. If it's going to be
Hold
hostile,
on,
then I'm not answering
gentlemen. I'm sorry, repeat the question.
I asked if they require licensure. I'm going to make a Socratic questioning.
You're asking if you require licensure. It's a simple question. What?
Yes.
Okay. What's the next question?
Okay, so have to specifically notify the municipality in which the facility is to be located of the full scope of services to be provided therein. Notification to the municipality shall include notification to appropriate and relevant local authorities and or officials. So my question to you, sir, is have you engaged in that process? Who have you notified of that?
All right, that is a legal question, should be answered, and could be answered simply, because we haven't done it, because we haven't gone through this procedure. It is things that have to be done after this board has approved.
I mean, it's fair. If he's not approved,
And then he will go through, and the company will go through all the procedures for approval and licensure. Any licensure and notification has to be made without question, but it all has to be done after these procedures are concluded.
Mr.
And
Laraga?
that is a legal issue.
but so Mr. Sue, regardless if you like the answer or not, the answer you received is they have not done it yet.
His answer.
Well, I'm going to help you out. Just hold on. The answer that we heard, I understand from council, is that it has not been done yet because they have not received an approval, and upon approval, they agree they have to do that. Doctor, do you agree with what your attorney placed on the record?
Yes, I do.
And you incorporate that as your answer?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So I would remind council and the board that it specifically says when seeking local approvals, that's when the process begins of notifying everyone.
Okay. And you have not done that, correct?
We have not.
Okay.
done that.
Okay, so in the application, in order for them to get to this board, they have to seek a permit for construction. That is a local approval. That took place in March. They had to get yes, you got a letter of denial, which is in the file, from the zoning officer saying that your permit has been denied. That was the seeking of a local approval 7 months ago. So ironically, when Mr. Rubin is complaining that the Historic Preservation Commission is not timely, I would point out to him respectfully that they have not been timely in providing notification to important and significant municipal offices and officials that they want to comment on this matter. And I can tell you, as that I spoke with the fire chief, Mr. McDermott, Chief McDermott, and he told me he's received no such notification. And the applicant said that they haven't done it. So, in my opinion, they're remiss. There's a void, yet another void in the record, which would enhance greatly the board's ability to make an informed decision. You're supposed to evaluate the record by them saying what they're saying is, look, we're not going to tell the city of Paterson, the health department, the fire department, the police department, the city council, the mayor, we're not going to tell anybody what's going on. Because that way they avoid having the scrutiny or having to be accountable to those public officials and their opinions about this application. So I think they've been remiss. It disadvantages the public. It disadvantages the board. I feel disadvantaged in the absence of those things. And I would very much be interested in the fire chief's opinion. They provide the emergency services with ambulances in the city of Paterson. It seems like that was a repeated question raised by by the public, and I heard it echoed amongst the board members. So it is not unreasonable, and this exists in their licensing procedure for a reason. And I doubt that they are going to tell the licensing board that they failed to do this.
So, counsel, I will say, I understand, Doctor, you want to speak. I will say this. It is a fair request that they have a better understanding of emergency procedures.
Could I answer that, please? What he's saying is what we do when we apply for a license. We have not applied for a license.
I
It's
understand.
really the licensing procedures. And once we apply for a license, there are things we have to do.
No, I understand that. But he also raises another very important issue in terms of the site and the use, and in terms of emergency services for that
That's
site.
part of what we have to do during the licensing
Well,
procedure.
no. That's also what you have to do in front of this board to make us realize that that use is suitable for the building
All
in
right.
that neighborhood.
With that, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe Mr. Sue is totally wrong in his interpretation of.
I'm not interpreting.
He is interpreted.
Sir, I object to that statement.
You could object to anything, David, you're wrong.
Michael, it's right here. Look, Michael, written words on a piece of paper where it says the statute's right there. It's state law.
I got, gentlemen.
You cannot change the law in the ordinances and the state of New Jersey. This is a land use application. You can't make it into something else.
Understood, but again, and the architect could address it, or whoever else could address it, but be prepared to address the emergency services and the neighborhood and the particular site and how that's gonna work for this use.
That is something that the architect, Mr. Evans, can certainly.
Yeah, understood.
Now, I need to make an objection. Mr. Rubin is being personal.
He's what?
He's being personal. He's telling me that I'm fabricating things and making things up. So he's speaking to what I presented with the redevelopment plan and that this board doesn't have jurisdiction. I'm providing the evidence of the application itself, which I have here to share a copy of where the information is checked off as being there, but is in fact not there. So I'm also providing, I provided to the board a copy of the administrative code of the state of New Jersey, which is law. Unless Mr. Rubin can demonstrate that the document that I have provided is fraudulent and false, I'm not rendering an opinion, I'm not conjecturing, I am merely presenting the board with a document which I would like to have marked. I would like it marked.
All right, so we'll mark it as, object.
I passed one to the
Oh,
board.
we'll mark it as, what, did you show Mr. Rubin? Did you show it to council, Mr. Sue?
Yeah, sure, I did show it to him, but.
No.
Isn't that-
Haven't seen it, but that's okay.
Good luck, Mike.
What is this supposed to be?
It's on the top.
Oh, NJAC, well, an NJAC doesn't have to
We
be
can
marked.
mark it as an objector's exhibit 1. We'll call it O1.
I don't know what he's trying to say. He just went, I don't know.
He's saying because it's law, you need to mark it as evidence. It's the law.
Yeah, that's
However,
what
but we
happens
want
when
you,
you
if
try
you
to
want
play
if you want,
lawyer,
hold on, if
David.
you want to
You
rely on
can't
the
play
printout,
lawyer.
I'm okay with marking it as O1.
No, I objected to his comment there as well.
I didn't hear his comment, but.
My
'cause I'm
comment
slow.
was that he's playing lawyer. He is trying to without the license to do that.
So we're gonna mark it as O1. Listen, hold on, just hold on. Two things. Do you have any other questions of the doctor?
I do have questions of the doctor.
Oh, go ahead.
But it's very hard for me to present anything when the applicant's attorney continues and repeats to disparage me. He's now saying that I'm playing lawyer. I have not conjectured, I have not stated.
All right, so I'm gonna give you an opportunity to ask a question. I just want, before I lose a thought, talking to my planner, what we would like is if you could, before the next meeting also, we're not 100% certain, again, I haven't really looked at it, that the particular use, being that's for profit and the way it's configured is inherently beneficial. I'm not saying it's not, but we'd like you to provide something to support that.
And I'm going
Position.
to provide something to support that it's not inherent.
Yeah, absolutely. You have that opportunity, sir.
Well, all right, let's, if we can get the ground rules straight. You want I won't call it a brief, but
It could be as minimal or as extensive as you wish.
on the question of the inherently beneficial use.
That this constitutes inherently beneficial.
Oh, well, that's an easy one because it is.
Okay.
Mr. Sue, how many more questions do you,
I have another question for.
Mr. Sue,
Doctor.
how many more questions do you have of the doctor?
Thank you, sir.
If I'm not interrupted and called names, I think I could probably get through it. If I can ask my question and just have it answered and have it
That-
answered instead of the witness continuing to testify based on a yes or no question, that would be very helpful.
All right.
Save a lot of time. All right. Doctor, is this facility here going to be operated under the supervision of the Commissioner of Health? The State Commissioner of Health?
That's really an irrelevant question. It really is an irrelevant question.
Sir, I'm not
Hold
asking
on.
you to characterize my question. I'm
It's-
asking you a yes or no question.
Very difficult to hear when everybody's talking.
That is an irrelevant question.
Irrelevant question.
So are you refusing to answer it?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Sue, you have to speak into the mic.
Okay.
They don't hear you.
Where's the handheld mic? I'll speak into the mic.
The question is, it under the supervision of the Commissioner of Health?
Yes. It's a highly significant question. The applicant may or may not understand why it's highly significant. I can explicate that now.
No, it's either it's yes or no, or if you choose not to answer, then that's.
I don't understand. If he's actually competent and actually knows his job, that he's actually a legitimate professional, why can't he answer that question? It's a very simple question.
He has an attorney that represents him, I represent him, and he's a grown man, so I mean, I'm not gonna.
Well, but I need an answer. The criteria under which this board will make its determination rests heavily on the answer to that question. He is refusing to do it. It's ostensibly a lie. False in one, false in all. Throw out all his testimony. Falsus in uno, falsus in omnibus. You understand what I'm saying, counselor? He's lying. Refusing to answer the question is a lie. And I'll tell you why it's significant. If the facility is under the supervision of the State Commissioner of Health, it's an inherently beneficial use. If it's not, it isn't. It isn't inherently beneficial. Mr. Rubin is hinging his entire case on whether or not this is an inherently beneficial use, and he won't answer this question, which would make that determination.
It's not necessary here, right now.
It is highly relevant, and I want to hear an answer to the question. And the board deserves one as well. And I can substantiate the case law and the findings of the courts that this is actually true, what I'm saying, that I'm not making it up.
I don't believe you're making anything up. But do you have any other questions? They're gonna have to brief the issue on inherently beneficial. You have the opportunity to address it. But do you have any other questions of the doctor?
Well,
I can't force him to answer a question
I
if he doesn't
can't
want to
force
answer
it.
it.
So I want to hear it again. Sir, after all that I said, are you refusing to answer the question? I put it to you again. All right. Will you be treating patients that are recovering from opioid addiction? You will.
What? I don't know.
Yes, we will.
Special.
Thank you for your answer. What type of medications will you apply? Would it say, for example, include methadone, Suboxone? If I pronounce it wrong, you correct me.
You pronounced it right. Yeah, we would use Suboxone. That's what we use.
Okay, and what type of protocol does, for example, the DEA require, not the DEA, what is the organization that does the DEA? Yeah, anyway, Drug Enforcement Agency. What do they require you to do if you're dispensing those types of medications?
I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. You have to be specific.
Okay, what type of, is there a requirement related to security based on conditions from the DEA or from your licensure if you're dispensing these medications?
Yeah, the DEA has a lot of requirements that we have to go through. We need to get certified by the DEA. They come in and they inspect it, but it's just not one thing. There's a whole slew of things you have to do to get DEA approval.
That was my question. What are the things that you have to do?
The whole slew of things you have to do for the DEA. It's too extensive to answer here.
Would you, sir, in the time between now and the next hearing, would you be able to provide the board with such requirements?
If the board requires it, yes, if they do.
So I'd ask the board if there was, as I said, a void in the record at the planning office with regard to the approvals, applications, and licensure. This would fall into that category. And I still want to hear, what are all the approvals that you require for this application from agencies outside of this board here? Do you need anything from the city of Paterson?
If you want us to provide it, we will provide it. We'll have it all provided, but those things are too extensive to talk about here.
Okay, well,
There are pages of requirements that we have.
is the obligation, if you would understand, sir, in the requirements for the application itself, it is the obligation of the applicant to put together this material. And I'm just speaking as a former chairman of this board and a former member, I found that it became laborious when applicants were not fully prepared, not with all their materials, not with all their evidence and testimony ready to go. You have an adjournment, or you can't hear the matter that night. And here is an example of that. I could be moving forward with better detail in my questions if I actually knew what the different approvals that were required, but it's missing, and they didn't submit it. I would also, again, repeat, I would very much want to hear from the municipal agencies and officers as to whether or not this is required. And frankly, I believe, in my opinion, that the fire department has something to offer at this meeting. And having them being invited to comment or even notified that this exists would be significant. I would say the same is true of the health department. I would like to know from you, sir, now my next question, if there were other zones in the city of Paterson, because you've talked about the building, but there are thousands and thousands of buildings in Paterson. If there were other places in the city where an inpatient facility or an outpatient facility was permitted that you would not need a use variance, wouldn't that be a better place to go?
You would not know about zoning. That would be an improper question.
Well,
to
okay,
ask
then
of
I'll
the
ask you,
doctor.
have you?
Why don't you ask that of the professional planner when he testifies?
All right, so then I'll ask this
That's
question.
his job.
All right, thank you, Michael. I'll ask this question. What investigations did you do into other sites within this municipality?
I'm not required to do that. You'd have to ask the architect that. He does that.
So the architect looks for properties in this municipality?
No. When we find property, we get an architect, and he does the investigations as to other properties and all other things that concern that.
How did you come to understand that this property was available?
On the internet, like everything else. It's advertised on the internet.
So did you do it, or did you have somebody else do it?
Yes, I did it.
So you do it?
Yes, I find the properties, and then we turn it over to an architect to do the rest.
But you just told me, sir, you're giving me a double answer in my opinion.
This
You
is
said that
irrelevant.
you-
This is irrelevant.
Sir, it is inappropriate for him to mutter and characterize my questions. It is not.
This has nothing to do with what we're doing here.
Excuse me, the television audience can't hear. I want you guys gotta stick to the microphone, please. Thank you.
Okay. I'll just let the board know, this is my fault with the microphone. We used to have the members of the public in the middle testifying, and I made everybody move to the lectern. Oh, I want to be seen as well.
He took it back.
All right. Really, the additional questions that I want to ask are going to be better informed by the materials that are missing, because I want to know about what they have to do for their licensure. He's unwilling to tell me what their approvals are that they would need, other than they're numerous. I really am somewhat disadvantaged, because there are other pieces in play. The variance, we're going to talk about that. Mr. Rubin's going to provide more information. It all hinges on an answer that he has refused to give me. There are other questions I'd like to ask. I have expert witnesses in the area. Can I continue my questioning at the next hearing? Are we going to go for another? It's 11 o'clock. How much longer?
At the next hearing, Mr. Sue, you can ask whatever you would love to ask.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, would you like me to continue asking questions for a while?
No. No.
So, are we going to, how much longer are we continuing tonight, sir?
We're cutting it off right now.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner, is there a date you can give us
You got to use the mic.
Sorry. Is there a date that you can give the applicant so we can return to the board?
It would have to be sometime in October, at the end, towards the end of October. It'll be back Tuesday. No, I'm not gonna give them a date. I'm not gonna give them a date.
I think we have something on the October 7th, which is the first Thursday. That's another special, I think. No, I think we have one, I said. And the regular meeting is the 14th and 28th. So the next special possibility for Thursday would be the 21st of October, if that's not taken.
Yeah. Well, he paid for a special meeting, as you may recall.
I'm sorry, what was that, Counsel?
We paid for a special meeting, as you may recall, if that does anything.
Well, this is the special meeting.
Yes, understood.
All right. Mr. I'm gonna give a date to be determined. Our secretary will be back Tuesday.
Well, that's a problem because I don't want to renotice.
I can't give you a date right now.
Oh, well, perhaps you can give us a target date, and then it could be announced at the next meeting, so I don't have to go through the process of re-notifying and re-advertising, doing all that.
Mr. Chairman, if I might suggest, as I've seen the board do before, and as I know I've done myself, maybe you could put Mr. Rubin's applicant on at your next regular meeting for the narrow purpose of scheduling, and that way the staff would have a chance to catch up, and you'd be able to do it more practically.
Yeah, but Mr. Sue, that means all the residents would have to come here to get that date.
No, well, we could, Mr. Rubin and I know each other. I've been to his offices. I sued him, his clients personally, and with other aid of his counsel. We're good buddies, and I'm sure he will tell me what the new date is.
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah, but the rest of the residents...
Well, I'm the tenant association president for one of the larger properties in the neighborhood. I will do a posting there. The notice of the date would be available at the planning office, right? You're going to have to agenda the item, and I will make a point, hand up high, I will circulate or post flyer in my buildings, and I believe we have residents, I may have left, but I'll certainly make sure at least the immediate neighborhood knows, and everybody has the same prerogative to call the planning office.
Mr. Rubin, are you looking for another special meeting? We can give you a date for our next regular meeting, which is in October.
So at the next regular meeting, you would announce...
Yes.
That's fine. That's good. And when would that be? So that could be...
October the 7th, correct?
No, 14th.
The 14th of October.
Yeah, that's the second Thursday. October 7th is the first.
So that will only be to announce when the special meeting will be held.
That's right. It's only
Very
for
good.
date.
Very good.
And like I said, I'll do the best I can to help inform the neighbors, but I think the board has many times advised the public when you're carrying the matter to another date. If they don't hear it directly, they can call the
Yeah,
planning
Mr.
office.
Sue, our secretary will be back that meeting, and I guess she'll also be able to put it on the website, which we've had some problems with in the past.
Margarita Vega?
Yeah.
I'll be happy to see her.
Yeah, so it might work out that way. So the 14th is the next regular meeting where we will just meet for a date. Right, Chairman? Okay.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your time that you've given us.
If there's no other business in front of this board, the meeting's adjourned.